Welcome, everyone, to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. I'm a networking expert and the author of the upcoming book, No Strangers, How to Build Community, One Relationship at a Time. My why is the pursuit of mastery, and the goal of this podcast is to lock arms on a lifelong mission of daily personal growth to become the best version of ourselves. So let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We are joined by not one, but two very special guests. So we have the drummer as well as the singer slash guitarist from the Dreamboats. So welcome to the podcast, Gianmarco Fiacconi and Chris Hummel. How are you guys? And how was your epic drive from Toronto to California over the last few days? I saw a few TikTok updates, so I'm in the loop a little bit.
Hey, Joel, nice to see you, man. First of all,
yeah, good to see you
guys.
For sure.
Yeah,
it was. I'm not gonna lie. This has been the smoothest drive. You'd be asking us why we keep driving back and forth. To be honest with you, this time I was trying to sell my car and get a good deal on it, but I just realized I'm getting a good deal. But every other used car, or every other car in the area is just astronomical. We just decided, we're gonna hold on to it. Drive back, bring the trailer back. It's doing the job. I just didn't want to burn the candle at both ends with my ride, and it's just been smooth. Yeah,
it's our third time doing the drive since January, so we're getting used to it. Trying to take a different route, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful drive.
What's the worst thing that happened in the other two drives that weren't as smooth? Anything memorable?
Oh my God! You know what? I think we always panic a little bit with like the gas situation. I think that the first time we were driving here, when we got to like the Joshua Tree in the desert, it was like late at night in the AM. Don't know what the hell's going on, where we are, and we had a little bit of gas scare the first time we were arriving. You can actually check that out with the in the little doc you're doing in real time. But this last time we were driving, we were just in conversation. Coming back here to California, and next thing you know, we're like in the middle of like Utah.
I was like, Chris, how's the gas doing? And he's like, not good. And I guess we didn't hear the ding go off, and we're in the middle of Utah on this highway. There's like nothing there. So I immediately look up when we got reception. I looked up a gas station, like it's 20 minutes. We're like, we're not making it. So long story short, you saw this cop on the side of the road who's helping this couple load up or fix a tire. And we passed the cop and pulled over at the side of the road. We were a ways down, so we had to backtrack to get to this cop. So Chris threw on his Richie here threw on his blades and bladed down the highway back to this cop. Kind of showed up, and they were all like, where did this guy come from in the middle of nowhere?
I'm surprised you don't get arrested for like rollerblading on a highway too,
I know, but the kicker is that he asked the cop, like, keep an eye out for us. We're probably not going to make it, just if you see us pulled on the side of the road. So the cop was like, okay. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, our blinker on our trailer, we traveled the whole trip without a right blinker on the trailer. So I'm like, this guy's going to stop us for the blinker. You know what I mean? So anyways, he tailed us to the gas station, and
And then we kept driving, and he said, just go for it. I gave him a fist bump. He was like, literally had his head under the hood of like another car, and like this family in distress. And I just rolled up out of nowhere. And then we were just driving, puttering along, I'm like not trying to, accelerate too much to burn gas with the trailer. And then the guy went right behind, he drove beside us, looked at it, and we looked at him. We're like, we're not going to make it. And then he just went behind us, and he followed us the rest of the way into the gas station. We came in on team. My car has never been pushed to that point before. And then when we pulled into the gas station, he pulled off into the sunset. And then he was an awesome police officer. It was great.
Man, I was when you said the gas situation, I thought you were talking about gas prices. We almost ran out of gas. You almost ended up like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul in the desert there. So
yeah,
it was like
we almost ran out of money for gas,
and the gas was double the price.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was expensive.
Yeah, it's been good though. It was a smooth ride. It was a smooth ride this ride for sure.
You guys just posted on TikTok. You did a little clip from, I believe, Ace Ventura. That was pretty amazing. So everyone should check that out. How much practicing did that take, or did you just know the movie so much from a kid that you knew it?
No, it took practice. And actually, I just shared a video like literally maybe half an hour ago of all the outtakes. It took like many days of just every now and then we'd be like, you want to do it? And we'd be like, okay. And then we'd just start practicing the lines.
It was one of those lines where like I could go off on like, all the Jim Carrey quotes in Ace Ventura line for line. But it was just such a barrage and so fast in that specific scene that it actually took like, some rehearsal, right? So and it definitely had some great responses online with it. So it was fun to do it for sure.
I was such a Jim Carrey fan as a kid that when I went to see those movies for like 2 years, I just recited Jim Carrey quotes nonstop to the point where my family banned me from Jim Carrey movies until I got older. So,
alrighty then.
Yeah, so the Barty, because I gotta. So what I like to do at the start of every interview is to share how I know the guests, if there's a little bit of history. I'm a big fan of networking and relationships and building community. So with you guys, so this goes back about, I guess, 12 years or so. So GM and I were in an entertainment business management program. So that's how you got so good with all the business stuff with the Dreamboats. And your dad actually sent us a picture. So I'm going to share my screen here and let me know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yeah, the glory days.
The glory days. So there's GM and I, and in the middle is Gil Moore, the Triumph from the drummer from the rock band Triumph. These guys have sold like 40 million copies. So this was us probably at graduation. Is that it?
Yeah, graduation. And Joel, for the people who are maybe listening from the band, they might not know me as GM. So I'll also periodically just let anyone know GM is really Johnny, me, just in case they don't know.
All right. So we got Johnny and Richie. We're okay.
Well, just in case. I mean, some people know.
You can call me Richie or Chris. Doesn't
call me later.
Yeah, as long as you call me.
Yeah, but this is a great photo. Good times. Yeah, that was a great year.
As a young whiz, man.
In fact, this year, when we were in together here, that really spawned a lot of the Dreamboat stuff. That was when the band formed. So I remember doing a lot of projects for school around entertainment business management, and I would always do things that revolved around the Dreamboat. So it was like, it was kind of the start of the band right here.
Yeah, so that's how we met. We were in that program last night. So I was at the Blue Rodeo concert. The drummer Glenn Milcham was a recent guest on the podcast, and from there you sent me this picture, and then I sent it to Gil, who I talked to a lot, and he said, "Hey man, thanks for sending the picture. Great memories." And he said the Dreamboats are a great band. I've seen them several times. So a powerful shout out from Gil Moore himself for the Dreamboats.
You got to quote him on that.
Nice. We always see him periodically at events in Mississauga. He shows up, and we always take the time to go over there like little schoolboys. And
he presented us our MAC.
The Marty Award. He also presented us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, not to be outdone, I had a throwback picture with Johnny here. So we need a picture with Richie here.
Yeah, Joe, we got some.
And look, you just mentioned I'm prepared. You just mentioned the Marty Award. So this is you and I at the Marty Awards. Can you see that picture?
Oh
no, that was at the Marty Awards.
Wait, what was that?
That was at the Marty Awards. That was at some like networking gala or something.
But it's at the Living Arts Center.
Living Arts Center. Yeah,
so it's at the right location, but it's not the right event. It's not.
Yes, the right location. I remember that day. That was fun, man. We were rolling that day. We had a little crew with us that day. So that was fun, man.
There we go. That might be the nicest dressed I've ever been. So I had to show that picture of you and I. And then I have one final picture, and then I'm done embarrassing you guys.
Uh-oh.
So I guess to wrap up how we know each other. So that's how GM and I know each other. And then within the first month of me moving from Ottawa to Mississauga, that's where I met you. And at one point you said, "Hey, there's this open mic at Marcello's. You should come out." And I came out. I knew nobody but you. And I'm sure Chris was there. And I met, that was kind of the start of everything. I started hosting open mics there. And I have one memory I got to share. So at one point I was playing at the open mic. GM, you had a couple drinks and
know.
you said, hey, let me, you're introducing everyone as the host, Joel. Let me introduce you when you go up because no one's going to introduce you. So GM has a couple drinky poos. He gets up and he goes to introduce me and he has this whole elaborate thing he's going to say, but he's had a few drinks. So what he does, instead of introducing me as a musician, he introduces me as a magician. And, everyone thought that was pretty funny, but he had a quick save. So he introduced me as a magician. Everyone laughed. He was embarrassed. And then he saved it by saying, because he does magic on the mic. And then everyone gave him a big round of applause. So,
nice.
So that's probably where I met Chris. I started jamming with GM. And then eventually you got busy, White Cowbell, Oklahoma, the Dreamboats. And then I ended up jamming with Chris, who's also an amazing drummer. And I have one picture from being in the studio with Chris. So this is at Metalworks. And can we see Chris in the back there on the drum kit? Can you see that?
Chris, AKA Richie on the drums. That's amazing.
Is that zoomed in? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So there we go. And that's enough of the throwbacks. There we go.
Great.
That's awesome. Good times, Joel, man.
Yes, absolutely. So look, you guys are, I believe you're one of the best live bands in Canada, one of the best independent live bands. I've seen you guys, I don't know, 30 times. I would always bring out my dates to your shows because it was so much fun and everyone would dance and everyone have a great time. So you were the catalyst for many great dates for me. Without the Dreamboats, most of my dates probably would have crashed and burned on the first time. So
kind, Joel.
Yeah. So, people know you guys as a successful band, but you guys have a beginning. You didn't just start as the Dreamboats that are in California and touring Europe and all these cool things. So I'd like to take it way back to the beginning. And, where does this love of music come from? Do you guys have earliest musical memories? A time where, as a kid, it's like, okay, there's music here and there. You're not really paying attention, but maybe there's a moment where it just hits you that this music thing is kind of special.
Should I let you take this one, or?
Well, I can say my own personal thing, very quickly, is that now that I look back on where I am in life and what I'm doing music, I always have these really, really early memories. Like I remember even in grade 1, there would just be like songs that would come on, or anytime we were singing, and they were just always in my head. And I even remember me and my buddy Joe, like we would even try singing. I remember doing like harmonies with him early on. Like we did like from The Lion King. I remember like trying to sing like a Timon and Pumbaa like part, and we both like got the harmonies. It was like grade 1. And I remember just always really liking music, but I was very embarrassed about liking music for whatever reason. I always felt really weird about just liking music. It took years until I was probably grade 8 or grade 9, getting Big Shiny Tunes. That was probably the first really cool CD I got. And I felt like, okay, now I feel like I can the world is my oyster. I can explore any kind of music. And so I don't know. It was always played a big role in my head. And I'm only now realizing this.
There's like little tidbits of like, of getting into music at like a very early age and things that spawned like, oh, I like the way this sounds, even into like, your later elementary school years where you're like, I really like music, and now I'm identifying myself as this type of person, this kind of style, and that even evolves. And you know what I mean? I think even some of my earliest memories were just, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. I love, like I'm born in the 80s, you know what I mean? I grew up in the 90s. I love like 90s alternative, love like Weezer, Green Day, Deftones, stuff like that growing up. But like for any songs that I felt like kind of got me into music, I'm always referring back to like 50s style like songs. I don't know what, like whether it was watching La Bamba and get my mind blown at a young age, or like, waking up. I remember just, when you have those kind of dreams where you kind of wake up in the morning and, things are playing or conversations are happening around you. And I remember hearing like Runaway on the radio, or like the Jerry the Pacemakers, like album that my dad used to have, the record, that I used to walk down my hallway and see this Jerry the Pacemakers like record and be like, who are these geeks? Only to realize they're like the best freaking band in the world. And then like, little memories like that. And then also, I remember the first time it really got me into being like a performer and being like, I want this glory, the way like a soccer player like gets a stadium going or something is I remember just seeing, I was young in grade 5, and I remember seeing like, Italo Lombardi, this guy like 3 years older than me, doing the lip sync talent show. He had the long hair. He brought his electric guitar. I thought to myself, this guy's the fucking coolest person I've ever seen in my life at this moment right now. He was just like ripping it up and like just lip sync, just like the fact of him being on stage. You know what I mean? And that kind of spawned me wanting to do like, you know, my own little lip sync talent shows in front of my grade 6 class. My teacher really embraced that and let me do it. And then, you know, and then later on in high school, now like, okay, now I can actually plug in and actually play some, you know, guitar or drums or something. And then having that all kind of go. And I think it's all these experiences growing up that just made me feel like I just want to, why I love being in music right now to this day.
And we always ask each other, like, we're like, what made us want to get in front of people at such a young age? Like what, and you probably have the same thing because you're a performer as well. Like what makes us want to get in front of people and be like, look at me. And I'm kind of a shy guy, but when you're put in some kind of spotlight, it's like the time and place. I feel like I can rise to that occasion. But we're even talking about early days, like he had his grade 6 thing too. I remember in grade 6, we had to pick like an artist to perform lip sync in front of the class. And I remember the only stuff I knew was also the 50s, 60s stuff. So I remember I did Buddy Holly, and I remember I had 2 cassettes I had to copy and make this little mixtape. And I remember like I bought the glasses and I drew a guitar on big construction paper, and I had this thing and I was like singing like Peggy Sue and like all this stuff to my class. Everyone was doing like Backstreet Boys and everything, and I came in here like just all Buddy Holly, and they liked it so much. I remember I had to do it later. I got an encore to do it in French class. I was all nervous.
I did the portable tour myself. They just sent me going class to class.
Do you think that is where the props and the awesome stage show for the Dreamboats come from? Is you making a guitar and getting good feedback, and you're like, oh, like we can do a step above just playing your instrument and singing. Like we can actually bring a spectacle to this.
Sure.
To me, the Dreamboats is like a different, like it's a shameless vibe in a way. I've been in many different bands, and I've been in a band since I was 17, like solid, nonstop in a band since I was 17 years old. Like from 17 to now, I've always been in a band, which is really crazy when I think about it, because I'm not that young anymore. And just like the thing about the Dreamboats compared to other bands is, with other bands, I feel like we always had to kind of like put on this perception of being like cool and a rock band, or you know, the Dreamboats is like, I feel like the more idiotic you act, especially on stage, is what makes this thing go over so well.
Yeah.
And just being like
Shameless.
totally shamelessly, like I say idiotic, but at the same time, I'm just being like humorous, like having this fun element. And I feel like, you know, I've been in situations in bands where, you know, it's hard to get guys to dance or feel like they can be comfortable to go to the stage. And to me, you don't even have to know how to dance to like retro rock and roll. You just got to get on the stage and jump, or get on the floor and just jump around. And I feel like that's been our kind of ace in the sleeve when it comes to like our live shows, the fact that we're able to kind of induce like this like shameless fun out of people to come and like check it out and like get into it.
And it ties into our like childhood love of this music. You know what I mean? Which is probably another reason why we can be kind of so shameless. You feel like a bit of a kid when you're performing in this band. Like Richie said, we've all been in other bands where you got to be cool and you got to be this and that, which is, you know, the way most bands operate. But we're definitely known as just fun, and yeah, you can kind of be as shameless as you want.
Yeah.
Well, that period of time, like the 50s and 60s, the image that the bands and the musicians had was more like, you know, Boy Next Door, Good Times, like, you know, Oh Golly, whatever. It came a little later where you had like the Led Zeppelins, where it's like, these people are rock stars. They're bigger and better than you. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that came later where you're too cool for school. So I think you guys, that time period is such a fun and like innocent looking projection of
on the pop side, for sure.
And
yeah.
At the end of the day too, like, you know what I mean? I think half the battle has been trying to make it look easy. A lot of people say like, you know, it's all, you know, it's 50s music. It's 3/4. I'm like, yeah, it's 3/4. But man, like, you know, we're trying to really do our best to kind of bring a good show and put that time into making that happen. And it has translated, thankfully. You know what I mean?
And being entertainers, that's what was so cool about that music back in the day. Not that people aren't entertainers now, it's just a different kind of thing. You know, like nowadays you're a pop star, you got to know how to dance, you got to know how to do this and that. It's so much more. But back in the day, you know, you had bands playing real instruments and just entertaining. You have to be good on the mic, working with the crowd, making people, laugh or joking around and having, and just looking like you're having fun and being a showman. So, we really try to do that because this is easy, quote unquote, music in many ways, but you'd be surprised at how many people can't play it how it should be and take it to the next level of making it entertaining and fun.
I think it looks easy when it's done well, which is what you guys are doing, right? Like if it's not done well, then it doesn't look easy. And I think the next time someone says, "Oh, what you're doing is easy," ask them to get up and do a handstand and have another band member play drums on his foot, see who else can do that.
That translates 10 times more than music itself. I don't know. I'm just joking. It's just funny when it just goes to show. It's like we can be doing our best to like nail 3-part harmonies. You know what I mean? Like doing focusing on the songs, just keeping ourselves in vocal shape and whatever it is. But it's like, it's the entertainment value and like the kind of stuff that's kind of outside the box and that shameless, like, stupidness of doing a handstand with a cowbell on your foot that like people are just kind of engaging to and kind of saying, okay, this is just this is an element of the stage show. And if you can kind of make your show just moments and moments and moments and just a barrage of this and that, slow, fast, banter, handstands, Justin jumping off the thing, Johnny doing a drum solo, like all these things, I feel like it's just a combination of all these things just kind of tickle your senses in all these different ways. And these are things that we're trying to still to this day, even after we started the band in 2009, the first time we've ever done this, we came down with laryngitis like last week. And I had to call in one of our mentors, Toronto legend, and I don't say that lightly, by the name of Robbie Lane, who came in and did a private party with us. And we just threw a set list. We didn't know any of the songs. He didn't like perform majority of the songs that we do on the set list. We just backed him up. And just hearing this guy just get on the mic and just work it and just like talk to the audience. And I'm like, it's fearless. It's on the moment.
And Robbie Lane is from that era. For context, he's he's in his 70s. He grew up playing in the Toronto rock and roll scene. So as Richie was saying, backing him up, and I performed with him a few times as well on drums. And he's just like a classic entertainer. He's witty, he's sharp, he's animated, and like he was saying, it was just a blast to play with him last. And
as rest in peace, Ronnie Hawkins. He when the band joined Bob Dylan, when Dylan went electric, Robbie Lane and his disciples went and moved in and started backing up Ronnie Hawkins. So he has the experience from, he joined Ronnie Hawkins' band like when he was 17 years old. So like seeing, like, we can only be so blessed to like be in the company of people that just own it and just know it and have had all this experience, and you're just sitting there like a fly, no matter how long you've been doing it for, and you're like absorbing it. You're like, okay, I need to do that. I need to start doing, this is the hole in my game.
And there's not many people from that era still like performing music. So we're just like sponges. We've met a few people from the original first wave rock and roll era, and just seeing how they operate and are on stage, it's like really inspiring. And we feel like in many ways we have to kind of carry that torch of entertainment value on and off the stage.
When you talk about memories, about creating all these moments and memorable parts within your show, it reminds me, I went to a concert once where it was Maroon 5 and Train, so it was like a double bill. And on one hand, there was Maroon 5 that was like super polished and perfect. Everything was perfect, so it sounded great, it looked great, they have great songs. And then Train was going on after them. And I'm like, okay, like it's hard to follow Maroon 5. They're, one of the biggest bands. And Train wasn't as polished or like heartthrobs or whatever. But what they did was they created like memorable moment after memorable moment, and they stole the show. Like it was one of the best shows I've seen. And I wasn't a huge Train fan. I like some of their songs, but they just, it was just so memorable. There were parts where like you wanted to cry because it was so touching. There were parts where you were laughing and it was ridiculous. And I learned a lot from that one show, where if you can do something memorable that people feel and that touches them, that means more than a perfect Celine Dion note or a perfect guitar solo, you know?
If you can treat like almost like, you gotta look at it as you can treat like a show, almost like a roller coaster with the peaks and valleys and the dips and the climax, you know, like, you know, you can be doing exactly how long, you know, if Mariah Carey held the most insanely inhuman like note.
That would be the moment.
That'd be the moment. But like, you can't do that for the whole show. You know what I'm saying? Or else, you know, so it's just doing your best to kind of get out of the headspace of just like, to me, I feel like just playing the songs and singing them the easiest part.
And yeah, exactly. And like Chris Ritchie here was saying, is like, we try to think of the show. I mean, we've come after years, you know, we're just like, well, after our shows, we get tagged in all these Instagram videos and we're always getting tagged in the same things. Okay, we do handstand, everyone whips out the phone. We do the high kicks, everyone whips out the phone.
That's actually good feedback when you think about it. You know
it is.
I mean?
So we think of things now, not often black and white, but we're just like, oh, we got to do this. And like, that's going to get people to want to film us, to spread the word, you know? So we think of, or at least I do, these moments as in moments, what's going to make people pull out the phone and like want to film this? What are they going to tell people when they go home at the end of the night? This band did, you know, backflip and they did this and they did that and they had a, you know, you need that.
If there's any takeaway, you know, from this, like, you know, from this conversation, to any bands, either up and coming or even old dogs like us, is just like, man, the quicker you can get on just like understanding the dynamic of your show, the more money you're going to be making, the more, you know, traction you'll be getting. And, you know, with us, like even growing up, you know, I mean, we were lucky for the fact that, like, you know, Johnny, I called up Johnny one time. Hey, Johnny, you know, we had this book that we always referred to, like the Beatles Bible, we call, you know, that you could play all the songs and sing all the songs. You just open the book. You could follow along with anyone if they have a general idea. Started this band, immediately started doing some open mics. Then after that, you know, getting these bookings to play like 3 sets, you know what I mean, in these bars, and like never any vocal training, nor like, you know, I've never led a band at the time too. Johnny was doing a lot of the banter, and, you know, he wasn't even a vocalist at the time. Now he's getting into vocals, and it's just like, you know, you got to go beyond sometimes, like the thought of like, you know, standing and just playing and singing the songs. It's just like, and that's good and that's awesome. But if that's like the highest point of like your show, you know what I mean? Like, we're always thinking of what we can do to just go beyond that, and like, and how hard that is, and like being influenced by people you really respect and care about and admire and see, and go see them playing in real time and being like, getting that feeling of what that's giving you, and being like, okay, I want people to feel that. So I guess I got to do what he's doing right now, or she's doing, you know? So it's always like a work in progress, but for a takeaway, I just hope that someone can focus on the show ASAP.
Yes. And to further that, it's like, almost, if you can play and be entertaining without all the bells and whistles, without lights, without anything, like, we always pride ourselves on, like, you can throw us in any situation, even if there's no PA, we can just make something happen and bring an entertaining show. And I think, you know, for up and coming bands, you know, you definitely gotta bring something different to the table. And I think a lot of people are missing the live show aspect of really feeling and bringing the energy to their song.
It's a mental game too. It's just like, people want to feel you being comfortable on stage, but if you feel like you're nervous on stage, and I even have my moments too, it becomes like almost painful to watch. So whatever we got to do to get ourselves in like a comfortable zone, whether it's performing nonstop 3-4 days of the week, like we used to back in the day, and just getting done with it. You know what I mean? Like, it helps build that perception and that feeling of comfortability online. And a lot of people, you know, I was going to say an example of like the Beatles. The Beatles just think that they're like some overnight success or something that they got on it. So I was like, no, like they were just killing
They're playing like 8 hours a day, weren't they?
On uppers, and just like talking shit to the crowds, and just like, you're just like, and just being like so engaged and so nuts. And then just like having someone come in there and just helping them kind of focus it all into one thing. It's like, it doesn't come easy. You know, you got to put your time into it, you know?
Yeah. With the Beatles, that's basically like the 10,000 hour theory to become a master at anything. And with them, when they're playing, you know, eight hours a day, 7 days a week for, I guess it was 2 or 3 years, they basically got their 10,000 hours in 3 years. Whereas every other band, that was over a 10-year period. So I think that's a big part of what made them as great as they are, is they put in their time and they did it quicker than everyone else.
And even as songwriters, they were writing like immediately, you know, so it just, they got all that practice in on both sides of the band.
So I don't know if all your fans know, but you guys both play multiple instruments. So on stage, one of you's on drums, one's on guitar and vocals, but you guys can both play drums. You guys can both play guitar and bass. How did you guys originally gravitate to those instruments? It's one thing to suddenly be a fan of music and realize that there's something magical about it, but it's something else to actually pick up an instrument and dedicate yourself to it. So any origin stories there for the instruments?
I think it's influenced like parent. When it came to drums, I started off as a drummer.
We're both drummers.
I'm a drummer and harp.
Let's put it that way.
Realistically, I don't play drums as much as I do. My email still is Chris Hummel Drums, at Gmail. So, but at the end of the day, it really just depends on the influence that you have growing up. What is cool to you? To me, growing up, when I saw Trey Cool and Basket Case, you know what I mean, like ripping those
Green Day,
30-second note rolls across those toms, I'm like, what the hell is that? And on top of it, my dad was always like he had sticks, and he said he was a drummer growing up. And obviously, we lived in an apartment, we didn't have drums, but there was just, I had to earn the drum set in the beginning. I was playing on pills and pots and pans for a solid year and a half, 2 years, before my dad was like, okay, I'm going to invest some money into this kid. He wants to like play some drums. So like, those are my earliest memories when it comes to like learning an instrument per se. Westbury kit, we had the same kit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of the same.
Powerful shout out to Westbury. We'll get them as sponsors, maybe. Yeah.
One day.
It was kind of weird because being really young, I always secretly wanted a drum kit. And once again, I was very shy, like, even though I may not seem that way, but I was at points of my childhood, and I always wanted a drum kit. And I remember one day my brother came home, and he was like, my brother's 8 years older than me, and he knew I had a bit of a stash of birthday money. I'm Italian, so whenever it was my birthday, he'd get money from the grandparents. I had this little jar with a couple $100, and he was like, hey, do you want to buy a drum kit with me? We'll split it. It was $400, so $200 of me, $200 of his. And I was like, okay. And my parents were like, you're not buying a drum kit. But I was so fired up. I wanted this drum kit because I'd always dreamed of this, and I never had the courage to ask my parents because I felt like they were going to be like, where did this come from? Like, no, you don't want drums. If they were to tell me you don't want drums, I feel like that would have like crushed my soul. But the fact that my brother brought it up, we were like, yes. My parents were like, you're not getting drums. We went out anyways, got these drums. And I remember I couldn't believe that this drum kit was in my basement. I remember going to bed and the next morning waking up and being like, there is a drum kit in my basement. And I just took to it so well. I was self-taught, so there was a big learning curve there. I really didn't know. I still don't know what I'm doing. But
let's be honest, we have no idea what we're doing on our instruments.
But and then over the years, you start playing drums, and it might be a similar case with Richie here, is that, I grew up and I started jamming with people. And then I was like, oh, the bass looks kind of fun. And I started listening to bass in songs. And I remember at Pocock at my high school, I asked the teacher, I'm like, can I rent out the bass? And he was like, yeah. So I took this thing home and I just loved it. And then I asked my brother to show me some chords, and I picked that up. And you're just always kind of picking. I never took lessons, but there's just always guitars around and you're playing. And then after a while you realize, like, oh yeah, I guess I play guitar, I play bass, and it's funny. The first time I met Richie here for the very first Dreamboats session, he came in with a guitar. I didn't even know the guy really played drums. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the beginning of your guitar journey. It was the first day we kind of met. You were just getting into guitar.
Well, no, I always had my brother had like a Fender Strat that my dad, like, for whatever reason, right. You know what I mean? I'm sure my dad regrets it to this day, is that my dad at the time invested a lot of money and like lessons into my bro, the older bro. And I used to kind of get the short end.
He picked the wrong horse to bet on.
He definitely picked the wrong horse on that one. And then eventually my bro just kind of gave up on it. And I'd be playing like Green Day songs, like just knowing the form of power chords. I'm like, okay, if I can fret, the first and the fifth, I'm okay here. And I'll play all these Green Day songs. And then I liked getting into, old 90s alternative. And at the time, like I said, this Beatles book, we were all working at L&M, me, Bolton, and
the original lineup. The original
lineup. And Johnny was playing with Bolton and Roberto Seixas at the time. And we all just kind of got together and started playing. I always liked singing. I never considered myself a full-blown singer, which is why I had so many vocal issues, growing, first starting with the band, because I went from not singing anything like professionally and just singing like 3 sets. I mean, waking up the next morning, couldn't even talk. You'd think a monitor would exist at the time, or I'd know how to at least get a monitor going. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to like learning like multiple instruments or whatnot, I just felt like it was just an easy transition. At least play rhythm guitar. I'm not a fancy guitarist. Rhythm guitar, I use almost like my guitar like a prop, and it helped just having some natural rhythm from the guitar. Same thing I can imagine as being a drummer going to the bass. You have some idea of rhythm.
I think drums are a good foundation for music.
Definitely.
I think because you just get a nice sense of rhythm on anything you play.
It's an encouraging instrument. It's just one of those things where you feel like, okay, I'm not going to sound like Neil Peart right off the bat, but like I can play a pattern here and it's cool. And if we're playing rock and roll, it's even cooler if you are not that polished sounding. You know what I mean? There's almost so it definitely helps with that.
It's funny, and I think even on a couple, not many people know this, but in some of the early days, we played a couple of questionable shows where there was like no one there, and we even just joked around and we switched it up where Richie would play drums and I would go on bass. There's even some shows I couldn't make.
There was times where in the beginning stages of the Dreamboats, we always knew that when it came down with Johnny, that White Cowbell, Oklahoma at the time took precedent, and just it was a more established thing. And shout out to those guys too, because I feel like they've inspired me personally when it came to, and also arming Johnny with the contacts of Europe, which allowed us to kind of go over as the Dreamboats and doing that and having like some cool tours over there. But whenever they were touring and had this extensive thing, Johnny would have to bail, and he'd bail. And I'd just kind of be like, well, I'm booking gigs and I need to keep playing. So I just jump on the drums and do the whole 3 sets playing. No rehearsal, just jump on the drums and just play. And it was wicked. And people would give me the compliments. They'd be like, and they'd be like, you did well. I'm like, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
So before I moved, 12 years ago to Mississauga from Ottawa. When I was in Ottawa, I knew of White Cowbell, Oklahoma. My musician friends, so I didn't know them personally, but they were like the stuff of legends, where my drummer would say, man, White Cowbell, Oklahoma is coming to play Barrymore's, which is like a legendary venue that U2 and John Mayer and all these guys played at. They're coming to town. So I would hear of this legendary band, White Cowbell, coming to Ottawa long before you were their drummer. And I remember when you and I were jamming, at one, like, you're the nicest guy ever, and at one point you're like, hey Joel, like I just have to let you know something, like I auditioned for this band White Cowbell. I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. You're like, if I get the gig, I probably won't get it, but if I get the gig, I don't know how much I'll be able to jam with you. I'm like, dude, go for it. Like those guys are legends, and you ended up getting the gig and touring Europe and all that. So shout out to White Cowbell.
Yeah, and that's another example of a band that has some epic stage show, like all these cool moments, and there's chainsaws and things on fire, and the band is a killer band, and everyone is just doing something in high energy. It's so yeah.
Do you think that actually influenced you guys as well, like the live show to push yourselves?
Sure, yeah.
I'd say there's some elements of there just being like, okay, this guy's like got a chainsaw.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the chainsaw at the Dreamboats show.
Shit into the audience. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, this guy's they know what they're doing, So it's having a couple good shticks and knowing how to like just get people talking, and that's what we're trying to do as well. So, and we definitely took a lot of elements. Inspiration from that band.
Yeah.
I myself personally, obviously, naturally with Johnny, who's in the band. Yeah. But like just being that guy like on the outside, but also being like, oh my gosh, I got to play drums. I want my drummer back. You know what I mean? And what? But they're always something so positive. I'd look at in my life for sure.
So the original lineup of the band, you guys were all friends, all musicians. You knew each other. How did the Dreamboat specifically start? Like, where did this, maybe you wanted to play together as musicians, but where did the concept of 50s and 60s cover band, matching outfits
start? But it kind of, because the proto start was before. I'll just say this. The original members of the band was Richie, myself, Johnny, Mike Bolton, the Golden Boy Mickey B, as we called him.
Yes, sir.
And the ever so gracious Mr. Robbie Sensations.
Mr. Robbie Sensations, Roberto Seixas. So that was the original lineup. And I played in a band called the Steady Rollers. It was me, Mike, and Roberto. So 3 of the 4 original members. And we had broken up. We used to play kind of stuff. It was very similar to like the Sheepdogs kind of stuff. It was like Allman Brothers, early, like kind of 70s, that kind of thing.
Southern rock, I guess.
Yeah, Southern rock. So we broke up. And I remember after a few years, I bumped into Mike. He was working in Long and McQuaid. And we were like, let's get a jam going. So we got together. and we were jamming, and we were doing a lot of Beatles stuff. This was before we even jammed, and it was just a lot of fun playing these Beatles songs because that was all we kind of knew. Then we got another jam going one day, and he said, "Hey, we're going to be jamming with Hummel from Long and McQuaid." And I'm like, "Who's Hummel?" And we go, "Hummel. He works in the drum department at Long and McQuaid." I'm like, "All right." So that was when we got a room at DC Music, and this guy shows up. This was Hummel, by the way, Richie here. And I remember him coming into the room. There's the three of us, and then he came in and was just he immediately went to the drum kit. He's like, "Yo, what kind of kid is this?" That's my first memory.
Like, that's a strange comment for a guitarist. Like,
yeah, exactly. And he came in with this thing. I didn't really know who this guy was, but he worked at Long and McQuaid, and we just started jamming all these Beatles songs, and he was singing along, and he kind of knew the tunes, and it just felt kind of good. And then Richie here, capitalizing on the moment, decided that it'd be a good idea to do a band. That was his idea.
I just gave him a call. I just got his number. I just called and said, "Hey man, great jam. Like, what? I have this idea. Like, I always wanted this concept of being able to play, do the matching thing, the Beatles did or whatnot, but also have the ability to kind of do these rock and roll parties where everyone acted, ridiculous, and also get the slow dances going. Like, I wanted to get people slow dancing, and because my favorite memories and earliest memories were Richie Valens, slow dances. We belong together. Donna, put your head on my shoulder. Earth Angel from Back to the Future, Sleepwalk. You know what I mean? All these tunes I just loved, and
you're just a big softie.
Oh,
he's the soft,
hopeless romantic driving the Dreamboats. Yeah,
don't go beyond it, but but this is kind of the concept. I thought that I think this guy would be on board with that. You know what I mean? And love the feeling of the drums, and love the era.
And we just knew the same songs.
Yeah, we did the same songs.
Yeah, we really knew the same songs. All the La Bamba stuff. I'm like, man, I grew up on this stuff. I not only grew up, I love that kind of music. To this day, I genuinely love 50s and 60s music. I consume 90% of the music I listen to is still to this day, oldies. So I felt like when he gave me this call, I was on my lawn. I remember I was just pacing. He's like, "Dude, let's start this band." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Let's do it." And his old prior band, the Odysseys, had a jam space. So there's already a place to rehearse. And it kind of just stemmed from there. We didn't even have the name or anything yet. We just knew that we were going to get together, learn some of these songs, a lot of Beatles songs, stuff from the La Bamba soundtrack, stuff from Back to the Future. And we were going to eventually play some shows.
Fast forward, 2 weeks later, we went to Walmart and grabbed some George. Great George vest with the and you got H&M black skinny tie,
and everything else is history.
Yeah, tight ass black jeans, and we kept it rolling from there.
And where did the name come from? The Dreamboats is a perfect name for the band. It gives an image. It sounds right for that era of music. It's the perfect.
That was the whole thing.
This is the great debate now. You struck a chord.
You're both claiming to have said.
We are both claiming, and we both have the original members of the band. Roberto claims that I came up with the name. He remembers the exact moment as I remember it, and Mike, the other member of the band, claims that Richie
who later on too, we had a light falling where we love each other now kind of thing. But even with that, he'd still back it up and saying I was.
But he's still backed me up.
Okay, hold on, guys. Who has more credibility between those two guys is another thing. If you have to go to court and prove this, who would you believe?
I don't have chances.
Yeah, no, don't answer that. But I'm just saying.
No, but regardless, we have this little thing where I'm like, I came up with it because I remember saying it, and Chris remember
saying it to Mike too, and Mike was like, "I don't like the name the Dreamboats." I'm like, "Dude, it's the perfect name."
Well, what are your stories? Let's hear it. So just very quickly,
I knew it specifically because I took the name off when Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future was cranking around the corners there, getting away from Biff on a skateboard. Yeah. And then his mom looks over at her friend, goes, "Well, isn't he a dreamboat?" And I thought the song we do to this day, we're big Back to the Future fans. Johnny Be Good. We end the set all the time with this thing. You know what I mean? And that was one of our favorite movies growing up. And that was just where I took the line from.
Johnny, where'd you get the line?
I confidently took the line from.
I also love that movie. I know that movie word for word, so I know that that's a term. I know that that's a 50s term. And I remember going to the mic. We were in your rehearsal space, and I was like, "What about the Dreamboats?" And I remember that's how Roberto remembers it too. I think.
No, I was saying, Jules, these guys are making suggestions like Little Chrissy and the Dreamboats. I'm like, I don't know about Little Chrissy and the Dreamboats. I would just call it the Dreamboats, and we'll just call it a day.
Regardless, we will never know until technology will be able to use our retinas to go back.
You guys, we'll get both of you guys to do a lie detector, and one of you knows it's the other guy.
We're both confident in ourselves. I would, if there was a lie detector test, I would pass because he would pass too.
Guaranteed.
So it's a good way. It's a good story to say we both came up with it.
But the only way it sounds like the origin. It's the same origin story. Like it's both of you guys is basically from Back to the Future. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
you can like agree that it's like from the same source. You guys both got digital downloads from the Infinite Intelligence.
Yeah,
and you both shared the from the same source.
It was meant to be.
I know where it's conjured up in this brain right here. I got this little section of when it was proposed by
me as well. So that's it. So you struck a little chord there.
I got to change the subject before the fist fight breaks out. So I have a fan question sent in, and this is from arguably the Dreamboats' biggest fan in the world. So this is from Amanda Luciano, who I know
arguably the biggest Joel Martin fan in the world.
Well, that's true. So she goes back to the Canadian Idol days. She's a massive Canadian Idol fan. That's how I got to know her. And then all the Dreamboat shows I would go to, she came out to one of them and never let go since then. She's been.
No, you booked us a show at Bovine.
Yes,
the
Bovine.
And we opened for you or something.
Okay. I remember
that was our first greaser set where we were like, we're not wearing suits. Let's just wear black pants. Let's wear some t-shirts, get some fake cigarettes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Grease it back. And that's where she met us the first time. Wow. I mean, the rest was history from there.
Okay. So I remember like maybe the next Dreamboat show after that, she came out. And, you know, maybe I'm too busy at my own CD release party to tie that all together. But at the next Dreamboat show where I have nothing to do with it, I came out and I talked to her in advance and she came out and was like, I love the Dreamboats. They're the best. So that's my memory. And you know, what's funny is you guys playing that CD release party is the day I realized to never book the Dreamboats to open for me because that's a hard act to follow. The lessons that you learn along the way, you know, I'm like, these guys are awesome and I love them and they're popular and they're perfect. And then I realized they probably should have headlines. So there you go.
Thank you. That was such a fun night.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But so Amanda's got a question for us.
She has I guess I should share her question. I was just giving her a bunch of love there. So she wants to know, other than the Beatles, who is the band's biggest inspiration?
That's a very good question.
Because the Beatles would be number one, I would assume. But then after that,
can I say inspirations?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What, do you want to start this one off?
No.
Okay, I'd like to think. I like to think the Everly Brothers are one of them.
Sure.
I remember going through a questionable period of being like, I love these guys so much. I want to sing them. Is anyone even going to get what the hell I'm doing here? And then Billy Joe and Nora Jones released Foreverly, the album. I'm like, okay, it makes sense now. So I love the Everly Brothers, and I'm not alone. Richie Valens, of course. I literally piggybacked a career off Lou Diamond Phillips, who played Richie Valens in the movie La Bamba, and my stage name has been Richie Hummins in honor of the Valens and the Valens family. What else? I also, of course, but I love the Zombies as well. I'm a big Zombies fan. Who else? I'd say those like my main, and Sam Cooke. And you want to talk about just smooth, just amazing, immaculate, like
a change gonna come is like the greatest song of all time.
But even his love songs too, like his political stand, you know, just. And I think those are my heroes right there. And about Elvis, you know, Leonard. Oh, I'll stop. Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like everything and anything from that era. You know, growing up listening, my parents always had the oldie station on the AM like channels, and even when we formed the band, we'd always be buying those little like compilation CDs, like jukebox classics. Walmart. So it's hard to pinpoint anything. I would say definitely the Beatles are one of the biggest inspirations for me, just with everything. I'm a huge Beatles like fan and nut. I love everything about the Beatles. So as a band, but then you have everyone like Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, like all those guys. Like we know their material extensively. Everly Brothers, definitely an early fan or
Jerry
inspiration. Jerry and the Pacemakers, we shamelessly like, although we don't cover any of Jerry and the Pacemakers songs.
Only in my room to myself.
The Beach Boys, love the Beach Boys too. Like early Beach Boy stuff is just pop. It's as trim the fat as you can get. So yeah, all that stuff, all the jukebox classics. And I know it's kind of popular now. A lot of bands are doing the retro thing, and they're kind of doing rockabilly, and there's all these subsets. And I think where we are different is that we actually draw the inspiration from the golden oldies, like the top 40 hits of that era, where I feel like a lot of people in the retro scene, it's almost too cliche to do that stuff. But for us, it's like that's the cream of the crop there.
We have our shameless like stuff too. Like we like there's what's
sure.
weird about this band too is as much as we cover like the songs that everyone knows, like we throw in songs that we just generally love ourselves, and I don't expect you to know them, but if we could deliver them in a very passionate, convincing way that I believe you're going to enjoy. I hope that you're going to enjoy it, kind of thing too. So I wouldn't say we're just, we're all complete cookie cutter with our material. We're very shameless and can be selective of the stuff that we carry personally, like selective, But then there's some gigs that you play where like, we just had a booker book us as well. Then it was just like, we need all the songs that everyone knows, gotcha. We know the songs that are,
But the thing is, we love playing all these songs. Like we're playing, you might get some kind of like pub band or something doing like Pretty Woman, for example. But when we play it, it's like we actually like playing it. So it comes across differently. It's got our own style, our own version. We're not just sitting there like just doing it. It's like all the songs we picked are songs that we genuinely like. When we're doing La Bamba, it's like we're doing La Bamba because this guy grew up on the movie La Bamba. You know what I mean? It's like we like doing it. It's not like done in this kind of certain way.
I've owned that soundtrack, that CD like 4 times, where it's like it's busted, scratch to hell, throw it out and get a new one, vice versa. It's just like, like we generally love that kind of stuff for sure.
But yeah, that's the inspiration.
So Johnny, to prove your love of the Beatles, I have a memory. Let me know if this is true or not.
Okay.
I remember being at your place and you having the video game Rock Band, the Beatles edition on the Nintendo Wii. Is this true or is this false?
Oh, yeah.
This is a real memory. Okay.
Yes.
So that's how much you love them. You can play them on real instruments in real life. And then you get the plastic instruments and you play them in video game form. You can't get enough,
I would literally like turn off the lights in my basement. Like this is when I was like living at home, and they had the Paul McCartney bass for Rock Band. And like, I would just play the whole game on the bass, just playing along because I just love listening to the tunes. It just added that extra level of like, I don't know, enjoyment. That's how like nerdy.
But you actually play like the drums in Rock Band.
On Expert, it's the real
drums. It's the real drums. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I used to be a big Guitar Hero fan. I used to play. People used to tell me, they're like, you can actually play guitar, and I would play more Guitar Hero than I'd play actual guitar.
I know, it was so
and
fun.
I was like, I don't know, it feels good on the fake guitar.
I know, and you just get into the songs. Like it's a different way to consume music. We almost got to bring it back.
Seriously.
I still have. So I have a PS5, but I have a Xbox 360 with all the Guitar Hero games, and I gave those to my nieces to keep, so still within my universe, I have the ability within an hour drive to play the Guitar Hero games if I need.
Nice. That's awesome. Good uncle.
Yeah. So you guys, the Dreamboats started as a cover band, but along the way, you started to write original music that was still within that same universe. In 2014, you released a 2-song, I guess an EP, I would call it. So Love Control and Don't Go Home are the songs. When you think back to releasing those 2 songs, those kind of kickstarted the journey you're on with original music. What kind of memories and emotions and thoughts come back to you when I name those 2 songs? Is there a special place in your heart? That was the beginning of something different.
Definitely. Yeah, I think at the time too, we were looking to try releasing, like we had some ideas and releasing. We tried to get we got the demo grant from like Factor. We tried to like get some, maybe we can try to get some Factor bucks at the time. Thankfully, we never had to rely too much on funding through our career. But this moment here, we just want to try getting into the system, and we should be trying to rely on some funding. I'm not gonna lie. But at the time, I just remember, it was just kind of a new feeling of being like, okay, we're putting this down on some wax here and then getting it out there. We made we made some little vinyl records out of it.
Quite literally, yeah. Like the way in my mind that it stands out as special is that the first song, Love Control, was like a rough idea that Richie here had. And then I remember getting together, we were at Rock Pro Music Center, which was the lesson center that Richie helped market and worked at and really helped build up in many ways. We were just sitting there and we're like, we ordered a pizza and we're like, okay, let's like finish this song. So to me, that song had such a collaborative effort from the band at that point. And then I remember Don't Go Home was a song that Brian, our bass player, had written. I remember telling him, it was around Christmas, I'm like, yo, man, you want a Christmas gift? I'm like, write a song for the band. So he wrote Don't Go Home. And I remember that's how that came together. And we actually recorded the whole EP in Rock Pro. So Joel, I think you're familiar with Rock Pro.
I forgot about that place until right now. Spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, so we recorded
over your stuff. We were rehearsing there like every week.
Yeah, so we recorded there in the back room, and I remember having the idea. I was like, we want to release it on vinyl, and I was like, I want to number all of these things. It's going to be an exclusive. The first release, we're going to get it pressed on vinyl. So, and we did that, and so every one of those copies has a hand numbered thing on it, and it just meant a lot to us for the first release. It was really retro.
And when I was thinking about it too at the time too, when you talk about what it brings up memory wise, I remember at that time I was going through a vocal injury. I remember recording that song.
Which one? Love Control.
Love Control. Screaming my freaking ass off in that song, and I had a polyp on my vocal cord at the time when I recorded that song.
Oh. So that's that grit you get.
How did you guys record there? Did you guys bring in equipment to record, or is there a studio within the
Brian, original bass player. Brian was a beast. He was awesome. He brought in all of his gear and recorded all of that, and then we did some overdubs at his personal studio.
Well, that was we demoed it, like the drums and like in guitars and whatnot, and that was going to be like our demo for like the Factor funding, and then the takes were good, and
the recording actually sounds really good. Like I listened to your entire discography several times leading up to this to be ready, and that actually stands out as like it sounded really good. Those two songs.
It's right in your face, the master too. We got a master. Was it Carvalho there or whatever? But it was like we got that master back, and it's like right in your face. It's sizzling.
When you have that thing on your playlist, it just comes out of like nowhere. It's like holy shit! Like it's crazy.
So it's pumping, but
yeah. Johnny, I was gonna ask if that's the most fun original song that you play on drums, because there's like the intro. It's like a fast, blistering tempo. There's like some tom work. There's like a lot of cool stuff in there. Is that a song that when you look down at your set list and it's coming up, do you get excited?
Are we referring to Love Control or Don't Go Home? Maybe.
Oh, Love Control. Sorry.
Love Control. Yeah. Actually, that's one of those songs. It's fun to play, but it's tricky to play even to this day, because I'm trying to do this kind of Ringo style beat, but we played a little faster. And by the end of the song, I'm definitely like fatigued playing it. So it's a tricky song, and I challenge anyone who wants to play along to any Dreamboat songs, try doing Love Control on the drums. I'm curious to see anyone else.
Did Love Control start? The writing of Love Control, did it start with that cool guitar riff?
No,
that came later.
Well, like I had an idea from a song that like I was kind of inspired by at the time and whatnot, and I was talking with Matt about it. I was hoping that he could kind of, I was kind of like melting out some certain rhythms and like some certain kind of notes, and he just kind of went with it.
We should sing the song. No, why not? Why not? It doesn't sound like it.
I think at the time we've been called out for it sounding pretty similar to it from a couple of people, but I don't know. I feel like there's so many songs.
I'm going to say it. Chris was like this. He was like, look, I want a riff kind of like Life in the Fast Lane. Okay. So Matt kind of was doing that riff. And I remember being like, Matt, the guitar player at the time, I was like, Matt, could you try and do that riff that you're doing but play it as if George Harrison was playing it. And Matt is like a genius like that. He was like, okay. And he did like a little more choppy. And we're just like, oh, that's great. So but that's it. The inspiration, you know how it is. It's like you have ideas. There's things that work in certain songs and you just form them to your way. And it's,
there's a lot of elements in that song. Like even, I remember one of the things that, one of the hook itself was like, leave my woman alone. And I completely, if we're going to talk about it, I completely, I remember going through a little bit of like a weird little breakup at the time. And if you listen to the lyrics itself, there was this one moment here where I was having like this like kind of breakdown with this girl at the time. And the song, When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars was playing in the back. And I remember just sobbing with this person at the time. And then months later, the whole situation kind of got really twisted to the point where we were just not like really on the same good page and kind of got like kind of bad. And in a way it was, I used the lyrics of that song in the chorus and kind of flipped them in a way to kind of just be like, F you to that moment. F you to that person. I don't know.
This is a true deep dive. This is the good stuff you don't get in a 10-minute interview. This is I don't
really go that deep, but if you want to know the ideas behind it. And then when I think about it now, like I used, as sad as I was, I really tried to mask it with like this kind of like, cruder, obnoxious way of flipping these lyrics in this moment that I had such a sad part in, and just kind of really just in my way flip it and just make this song and use the context of those lyrics in a way that kind of worked with it, and then that went with the whole theme of the song, the love control. And so check out the lyrics, anyone, and you can see what I'm talking about in that regard. Yeah.
Check out the lyrics, but also check out the artwork. I think the artwork is amazing for that. So do you want to describe what the cover is for our listeners or people that haven't seen it? I think, again, just like the Dreamboats, the name is perfect for the image and sound of the band. That cover, I feel, is like a great visual representation of what the Dreamboats are,
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. So that was designed by Laura Hart. I believe she painted it as well, or did something. But she was one of the earliest true fans of the band, and not like fan in the sense of I'm a fan. She was like, we would hang out with her. She would come with her group of friends when we were playing at the Finn McCool's, and they would show up, and they were always dressed retro. And she was just a really cool girl.
Magpie, though, I like to say.
As well, but it was the early days as well. But yeah, also the Magpie, she would come out weekly with her friends to a weekly residency we did in Toronto. And she was an artist. And I remember we were, looking for someone to do the cover, and we were like, let's get Laura to do it. She'll come up with some cool ideas. She was always sharing her doodles, and she came up with a bunch of different ideas, and we settled on that one. She had all these sketches. We were like, oh, the car, the kiss, that's really cool. And then she kind of finished the idea, and that was that. But Laura's actually an awesome artist, and her art now is actually pretty. What would the word be? Pretty
comically provocative, pervert.
She pushes boundaries.
Perverted, but not perverted in the sense like it's very tastefully
pushing
not
boundaries.
tastefully, like kind of X-rated.
The opposite.
But whatever the opposite word of tasteful.
So awesome.
Amazingly untasteful.
Yeah, big shout out to Laura Hart. I don't know her Instagram handle off the top of my head, but if you type in Laura Hart, she's got really cool artwork. So it's an honor that she did the artwork for us.
I think amazingly untasteful is like the perfect, that in quotations, that sounds awesome. Amazingly untasteful. I hope someday this podcast becomes amazingly untasteful. Like I just like that term for some reason.
That's the thing. We're on our way. We're not done yet.
Yeah, we're working on. We got another hour to go. Yeah. I was going to ask you, once you released these two original songs, did any new opportunities present themselves? Because it wasn't just a cover band. It was like, wow, they have some amazing originals as well.
I think that was one of the reasons why we also started releasing music, is that we felt we couldn't get onto certain bills until we had original music. People knew us as strictly the cover band. I remember we played like Low Key Fest. Colorado actually was the headliner that night. And it was like, we wanted to have original music. We couldn't go there. I don't even think promoters wanted us to be this tribute act, so we kind of needed a release of some sort to get in the system, Spotify, just to let people know we were there in the original realm. But with that release, I would say that opened us up to going to Europe for the first tour in 2015. Like, we had some original songs under the belt. And so having that release enabled us to reach out to venues, reach out to promoters, be like, hey, we're a retro influenced band. We wouldn't say we were a cover band, and we would only show them the original stuff. So that really enabled us. I don't know if you had anything.
No. It's pretty much true. It's just like just trying to get out of the perception. Even like when Johnny wanted to get us into like the Elvis Mondays over at like the Drake Hotel, we need original music. Okay, I'm like, okay, I have some idea that was originally like a punk song, but we'll shape this to make it sound like a 50s song or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Mickey B at the time, introduced one of his songs and stuff like that. That was really cool. And we took a couple ideas from some of those sessions and made something of them. But yeah, getting the notoriety or like the reputation of going beyond just a cover band was something that was very important to us, and still is to this day. It's just you're doing your best to kind of figure out what's the best lane or what's the best angle to take with certain promoters and certain bookers, and you just hope that they can pitch you to whatever suiting scenario, and if it's the original thing, then we'd go that route. If it's half original and we're just the Dreamboats and we're the show, cool. If we're at the corporate thing and we know what they want, we're going to give them all the.
We're chameleons.
So we definitely do our best to kind of like to be a chameleon-esque in that way. But
I feel like having the original songs that are the 50s, 60s still style, that actually helps you guys to really stand out, because, there can be cover bands of that time period, but there's very few new current artists that are playing original music that has that sound, that's so like I think of like Leon Bridges, and that's almost it. Like, so he's someone that's like, having a ton of success with a retro sound, but I can't think of that many others. So I feel like your original music with a vintage vibe actually is your unique selling proposition if we're talking in business terms.
There's varying degrees. There's ones that are like very like traditionalist with their kind of like stuff that sounds like and a little throwback-esque or like 50s influenced stuff, but still in like modern pop like production, like what I mean.
Like a Michael Bublé whenever there's a few originals.
Or Amy Winehouse was a perfect example of like,
that's really a good one.
Motown vibe out there. Early Bruno Mars was really, really cool. Meghan Trainor had like some vibes, like, literally like lifting Dion and the Belmont, like, Run Around Sue and making Dear Future Husband in like this. I thought that was freaking
all brilliant. About that bass where it sounds like a stand-up bass.
And it's got like it's got like the images of the soft 50s, like, the colors, the vibe, the style, and being able to kind of infuse that into a modern thing is really cool. I'd be honest with you, like, I want to reach out to Tom Hanks. I feel like we're like a product of we're like children of his movie, That Thing You Do. Like, I remember taking like Carolina, in grade 7 to like go see this, this movie. And I'm even listening, even when we were driving down here, I was listening to the That Thing You Do soundtrack, you know what I mean? And like being like, these songs are so freaking killer, and they sound like modern. But they have just
they have all the ingredients,
all the sprinkled like ingredients of just like. And I'd love to be able to do that. And that's like, and that brings us to another thing that we have with the situation of our band right here, moving down here, is that like all this takes time, like writing, getting out here, like maintaining like a roof over our heads, gas, a little bit of something to eat, you know what I mean? Like, we're living off like, tips and existing band fund, like pre-pandemic, and writing music and really digging into that is something really, really hard. You know what I mean? And
like, with all this other,
with all this kind of stuff going on, and like we have stuff in the pipeline that we're working on, but like, right now we're focused on like, okay, well, we got to make sure we can live somewhere next month. So how are we going to do that? Okay, well, we got to play a lot of gigs. Okay, what's our sellable thing right now that can put money in our pocket, kind of thing? Well, playing events. Okay, well, what do they really want at these events? Maybe they want, the mix of the covers. And so it's finding this constant balance of when to focus on the original, when to focus on making sure the cover stuff is tight, because that pays the bills. I've been self-employed since 2016 through a mixture of songs, for teaching and performing. And unfortunately, a lot of my bread and butter didn't come from Spotify streams of Love Control. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where does this effort go into? And we want to be creative. We are creative beings, but it's just hard to really kind of find that balance of and let people know what we are, and that perception of that. And I love you interviewing for us to really get it from the side of where we want to take it in a very, candid way of what we believe ourselves, and what we believe in ourselves, and what we want to start pushing, an image that we want to push forward with. But the question is, does it get there? So
it's always a battle between the covers and the originals, because unfortunately the covers are where today, right now, the money comes in. The people are willing to pay for cover bands, for corporate, for weddings, for special events, but for longevity and for a career, you need the originals. So it's where's the sacrifice? It's you want to focus full time on the original music, because that's what you'll be remembered for, and that's your career. But the money is later on with those, versus they're dangling the big, the $4,000 wedding paycheck for an afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because right now there's a lot of cool cover acts that are coming out. In Canada, obviously we always reference Dwayne Gretzky, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and they play huge events. They get a nice young crowd of people that are just out to party. Out here in California, there's a band called Yachtly Crew, and they do all kind of soft rock covers, and the people who show up to their shows are all wearing these sailor hats. It's like a whole cult following, and we see these bands, and we're we can also build this kind of community with our band too, regardless, originals or covers. It's we've always been pigeonholed into one or the other. And I'm just I just wish we could tell people we're just everything. We're just a band. You know what I mean? We do covers. The Beatles did covers in the early days. You know what I mean? On their CDs, some covers, some originals, some this. It doesn't have to be one or the other. That's what would be nice to tell people at our shows. But yeah, in this early stage, especially moving to California, you got to pitch the band to people. And it's we're just we're this cover band, but we also have original, blah, blah, blah. So, now we're just we do covers. And then when we throw in originals, it's this pleasant surprise, or it's a thing, and that's, it's hard to balance.
It's definitely a crazy thing. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything like that, but we're doing our best to really try to get from what our mentors tell us, is to live in the fear zone right now, and that's the only way for growth. And for us, it's we moved out here in January, because we were we're not going to be twiddling our thumbs till the pandemic, when our gigs,
everything kept getting canceled in Canada.
April. So we did that. And then in the meantime here, you're seeing, we just did the LAC, we just sold out Burlington, did really well. And in the neighboring towns, or that from that little Ontario stint that we did, and we're coming over here, and we're just relatively unknown outside of the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area, and really how tempting it is when we're getting emails right now of people just being hey, we got this awesome gig for you, paying X amount of dollars. I would make this
good
really
money.
Easy, good money. But you have to fly back. You got to be, and it's we know that route. We felt comfortable in it. It's helped, and we're not being disrespectful to anyone, bookers or anything back home. It's just it's helped us maintain this career pre-pandemic, leading up to this point, living comfortably. We all got places that we're paying for, and family and all these things. But now it's we're taking this leap and literally hitting the reset button. You know what I'm saying?
In many ways.
In many ways.
We have a good product, but
the product is there. It's just, how do you convince people over here without having them give you that low ball first gig, offer, to be look, we are here. We've been doing this since 2009. We know that we can entertain your guests. and how do we get the numbers that we want over here? You know what I mean? And then from there, we got to ask ourselves, what are we playing? What do people want? And we got to assess. And then hopefully we get ourselves into this whole scenario. It would have been pretty naive if we thought we were going to come here to California and just start running shit. You know what I mean? Like, but we definitely feel confident in the product. People that are seeing us are buying into the vision. And it's just right now, we got to find out what is our best lane, get it, feel like we're nice and financially stable, and then from there have some options. We're looking into management right now, and taking that cake and just take the cake. Just make sure you can help supplement the gigs and get us in touch with the right people and bookers. And right now we're just trying to ask ourselves what's the best way to go about doing it. And I think right now with getting funds and keeping afloat, the cover thing is the thing to go. But we do have original stuff that we're recording in the pipeline that when it's ready to go and we have the plan outside of it, and we're feeling like we got a nice little buffer zone that's going to feel good financially, that we can start making some other moves that go
start
beyond
being creative,
yeah.
Again, which would be a lot of fun.
But even the manager that we're talking, like, this potential manager that we're talking about, like today with, and we're keeping our options kind of open and just feeling out relationships. They're saying too, like, yo, you need to start making original music. You need to start applying for funding. You need to, we got to get these guys involved. We got to get some songwriters potentially involved. And so it's all a work in progress. But like I said, we're doing our best, to live beyond, what anyone can expect from us. And we're putting our own necks on the chopping block to like be down here.
And we're a little older too. Like, we're in our mid 30s. I mean, I'm 35, and it's like, making a move like this at this point in your career, like this is almost something people do in their 20s. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but it's tough making a move like this, and especially when you've built so much at home, like Richie was saying here. We were doing theater shows at home. We were getting into that level, and coming down here, it's like, when we go to LA, we're playing like a bar. You know what I mean? That's just the reality. Out in Palm Springs and stuff, we're playing some really, really nice gigs, but LA, you're just one of many. And how do you cut through that? You need connections. You need to build. So it's tough. And, at 35, I know Richie here is such an optimistic guy, which is great. It's good to feel the energy. I get scared sometimes.
I'm lightly delusional at the same time.
No, but you also need that. Sorry. So when I talked to Glenn Milcham of Blue Rodeo, he said from the very start, he had this vision that he could make it as a drummer, even though he barely knew how to play. Like his huge optimism, it was basically like delusional in the right ways, where he's like, if I was rational, I would have never done what I've done. It's like somehow I had this confidence I shouldn't have had. I didn't have the talent to back it up. But with that grand vision and with that ridiculous confidence, it's like he had the vision of who he could be. And he became that person because he could see it before he was it. And you're talking about the comfort zone. The comfort zone is the actual danger zone. Like all the growth, all the opportunity, everything you've ever wanted is outside of that comfort.
I'm looking at your Goggins quote in the back right there.
There you go.
I couldn't relate.
They're inspiring me right now. Yeah. So yeah, life is a balance of chaos and order. If you have too much order, which is all in the comfort zone, it's safe, but there's not the excitement and the danger and the growth. And then if you're all completely out where the chaos is, it's too much for you to take in. There's no certainty. It's you don't know where you're going to live or eat tomorrow. That's too much chaos. So the right balance in life is having a certain amount of order, but having like 1 foot stepping into chaos, which is, making your world a little bit bigger. And now you're comfortable with a little bit of that darkness and that chaos. And now your comfort zone is a little bigger and you keep expanding it,
I always like to say that Johnny and I are the yin to the yang. I'm the chaos. He's the order.
I believe it. I believe it.
How we operate.
Between the temperaments and the organizations and the, that makes sense, but you need that, right? Again, you need the chaos and the order. You need the yin and the yang, the light and the darkness. I'm not saying one of you is the darkness. I'm just saying.
I'm the dark. I'm just joking. No, it's been a good relationship, man. Ever since it's been working to some degree, for the past little amount of time since 2009. I never knew beforehand for that phone call. So.
Well, I have some kind words sent in from someone that knows you about since around 2009, 2010. So someone who's known you for a while here. So this is from engineer and producer Kevin Dietz. So he's worked with Alexis on Fire and Billy Talent and Silverchair, a bunch of great artists. He was a guest on episode number 42 of the podcast. And this is what he has to say about the Dreamboats. He says, I've worked with the Dreamboats a few times over the years, and I've known the guys for quite some time. My own writing is horrible. They've persevered and they've kept at it, putting a lot of time and effort into building their audience. I'm continually stoked to see them grow and get more opportunities, bigger shows, grow their following. They put in the work and they deserve it. So that's from Kevin Dietz.
Kevin, that was so nice. I really appreciate that coming from him. That means a lot. We've worked with him. Yeah, as he mentioned.
He's just good vibes all around, Kevin, man. Seriously. He makes it so good in the studio. Right?
Yeah. Especially in the studio. Yeah. He's just so laid back and, but gets work done. And he's just the kind of guy I feel like we can even message and run stuff by him. Like, what do you think of this? And he would just help us. So it's so great. And yeah, we're very fortunate to know someone like him.
That's cool.
He's a great guy. Thanks,
Kev.
Yeah.
There you go. That's from Kevin. So in 2017, you guys released Vocal Warm Up, which is a 4-song EP. So you have Heartbreaker, Crazy, Fool for You, and Runaway are the 4 songs. We're just talking with Kevin about, recording and all that. I'm always curious from the audio side, how difficult is it to get kind of a vintage sound in the studio, but still be contemporary? Like how do you get that sound where it sounds new and it sounds clean and it sounds great, but still it has that 50s and 60s vintage sound? Is that a certain equipment you got to bring in that's more vintage, or mixing techniques? Or
when it comes to all that kind of stuff, I'm not the strongest person to ask, but I will say, I think there's just I think the songwriting itself kind of lends itself into that. Like when it comes to the recording, these are modern day recording techniques. Everything's all mic'd up. Johnny's a big fan of like just getting one mic in a freaking room and just like getting that kind of vibe out of it. And what one thing is things I've also noticed.
That's not what we do though.
Yeah,
we do it all.
But things that I've noticed that when it comes to at least trying to capture a little bit, especially when like Brian was like doing the recordings, like especially for vocal warm up and in the EP beforehand, was just trying to listen for little nuances that made these songs so kind of like popular. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of it came down to percussion, harmonies, like what you hear like oohs and stuff in the back. You're like, okay, that sounds pretty retro and whatnot. But even like going to see like a Wicked live band. Showed it to Tom Kenny in the High Seas, the guy who voices SpongeBob SquarePants. He has his own band out here that we went to go see. And he had this dude that had the plate full of all the percussion. And I'm like, and the percussion makes so much.
He stole the show.
Like they did like Be My Baby, those little claves and like castanets. Some in the back. You guys start doing this, I'm like, I'm losing my mind right now. Or like, when Brian recorded like Water Under the Bridge, he'd use like the ding, 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 with the triangle thing, like little kind of like things that'd be like, okay, that sounds like Stand By Me. And then
or Under the Boardwalk.
Or Under the Boardwalk. And when you listen to that song, I think subconsciously it just takes you there, whether you knew it or
yeah, it's a lot of subliminal stuff too, and even down to the production, guitar tones, even vocals. If you have that slap back delay on the vocals, where it's that slight little delay of the reverb and everything, you can kind of pick and choose how retro you want it to get. And yeah, it's in my mind, there's always a fine balance of, if you don't include too many of those elements, like I like including those retro elements. I feel like they need to be there to just keep that kind of vibe. But yeah, a lot of that comes down to production and how things are recorded and what tones and how far you want to take it retro and how far you want to make it modern. It's a balancing act a bit.
In 2019, you guys released the Hawkstone Sessions. It breaks our heart that about a month ago, Ronnie Hawkins passed away. You guys were able to work with him and record at his studio. what can you share about that time that you got to spend with him and kind of maybe honor his memory, you know?
Can I kick this off? Well, first of all, Ronnie actually does not have a studio. What he did have was a barn on his property on Stony Lake, which is in the Peterborough area. So he had this barn, and we performed there a few times for, he did his final party was there, and we had done another event in his barn with Ronnie present. So when we heard he had sold that legendary property, we asked if we could go into the barn and record, meaning we had to bring all of our recording gear. So we actually had Justin, who's the bass player with us now. He came down, he brought some gear. Brian, you know, obviously did a lot of recording too. So he had gear, and we set up our own gear for all of these things. So it was cool. We really captured the sound in terms of what it was like.
But even taking it beforehand, like, yeah, we got introduced, I'll say a quick little thing, shout out to Sandy Kilgore, who was the lawyer of Ronnie, who split up his Northern Estate property and helped him sell it off so he can be a little closer to, you know, town in Peterborough, just for health and whatnot. And Sandy Kilgore one day he saw us at this place 744, which is also the chicken deli to some of the older crowd that's on Yonge and Eglinton.
Sounds delicious. The chicken.
We were performing, great spot, and we were playing there, and then he saw us play, and then he made some crazy excuse for whatever to make to make some party, like an anniversary party, even though his party was his anniversary was like 5 months beforehand. And he set up a party at was it the Rose?
The Toronto Hunt Club.
Toronto Hunt Club, and invited out Bobby Curtola, Robbie Lane, and Ronnie Hawkins to come and see us, and just kind of.
Those are some good attendees. I wish I had a party that had attendees like that.
You know, and Bobby Gertola, you know, rest in peace. He unfortunately passed away before the party started. But we ended up meeting Robbie Lane and Ronnie Hawkins, and Robbie Lane is a big mentor of ours, a very, very close friend of ours that we visit and meet every time we come to the area. He was just at our last show at the Horseshoe, and Ronnie, of course, and that's how it kind of started. And Wanda sent us. We were, you know, giving
Wanda's
Ronnie's wife, and shout out to his daughter Leah. She's so sweet to us. Said that Ronnie didn't want to leave when he saw us there at the Hunt Club. Usually goes, you know, she wrote this to us. She goes, when we went to go see Elton John, he wanted to leave halfway through the show. When he came there that one day, you know, he's getting a little older. There was no problem if he wanted to get up and leave, but apparently he just wanted to, you know, watch us and play and
stayed the whole show.
Yeah, stayed the whole show.
Talked to us afterwards.
And it was just something that just the comments he was giving us and just like the praise he was giving us. It was such a confidence booster and let us feel like we belong, you know, doing these things. And you know, fast forward later on in life, you know, we went to a couple of his parties, went to his birthday, you know, visited him at his new place. You know, Johnny was doing some cool stuff. So he was making a documentary about how the influence of Ronnie Hawkins and how John Lennon came to Mississauga. And he's just always been game with just being so freaking awesome with us. And such a sweetheart, and the stories, we'd be sitting there.
So yeah, that ties into the whole Hawkstone Sessions, is that we were recording in the barn, and so this kind of thunderstorm was coming in, and we decided, well, we had been there for one day already, and we didn't see Ronnie. We got in the night before, and it was too late, so we didn't go to the house. We just kind of. Anyways, the next morning we set up, we performed, we got the recording gear going, and then we're like, okay, we got to go to the house and see Ronnie. So we walk over to the house, and Ronnie's in his bedroom, and this big storm rolls in and the power goes out. So we're sitting in his bedroom. Okay. It's the four of us, plus Eric Soto, our videographer, and Justin, who's now in the band. He was the sound guy. So we're just all sitting there taking a break. And then obviously Ronnie's just like, well, boys, you know, he reaches under his bed, pulls up this little tray, and it's got all weed on it, all marijuana. And so he starts rolling up a little thing, and we're in this stuffy, dark, dim bedroom. And he rolled something up, and then he starts just talking, telling stories. He starts passing this thing around, and we're hearing stories about Johnny Cash, Bo Diddley, who else was he talking about?
They say some about Lennon too.
And telling the Lennon stories.
With, Chuck Berry, he's great friends with Jerry Lee Lewis. All the legends, talking us about
personal stories,
telling us about Carl Perkins and cool stories about when Carl was on his last leg, and all of a sudden literally on the brink of suicide. And then, and the next thing you know, the Beatles release Honey Don't, and next thing you know, he gets this monster check in the mail, and he's back to
he's
crazy,
back.
Stories
for days.
Like you never hear. You know what I mean? Johnny Cash is a car salesman. Who's going to tell you when he was a car salesman?
Yeah,
you know
Ronnie was at the forefront of the whole rock and roll revolution.
Having his club,
front lines.
Buddy Holly before he was even popular. You know what I mean? Like stuff, like stories like that. Like I love Ron and love the family as well. And big shout out to. And it was just such a sad day when we heard of his passing.
But the memories, being in his bedroom that day, I definitely heard a lot of stories. I almost fainted because there was so much smoke going on in that room.
If there's no thunderstorm, you don't get those stories.
Yeah, no, I know. It was like a stuffy room. He hotboxed the whole room.
Just hearing us like even like playing and just commenting. He's like, I hear you guys playing, 40 days. It's really fast. We're like. He's like, Ronnie, we're
playing it at your speed. Yeah, because he was listening to us in the barn from his bedroom, right? His mobility was not too good at that time. And he just like, yeah, you boys playing 40 days, you're playing it too damn fast. And we're like, Ronnie, we're just playing at your speed, on the recording. We're like, oh, well, all right. So.
No, it was really, really cool. Especially like the memories that we have of the last time we saw him and the embrace that he give us. He was just such a doubt, like having this legend like just be such like one of the boys, you know what I mean? Just talking to him, like he's just no ego, so humble.
And it's crazy,
so beautiful. Man.
It's crazy. One thing about Ronnie was that I noticed the first couple of times we met him, he was very kind of PG. He was a gentleman, he was always a gentleman, but he knew when to turn on what, so if he's at an event, he's kind of Ronnie still, but he's got certain kind of ways of dealing with people. And then it's like, when it's just the boys hanging out, it's like, he's one of the boys, he's telling it, and it's musician to musician, it's not like he's this big guy and we're here. It's like, he saw us as boys, what it's like when you got to, do this and that. It's like, he's talking to you on that level and hearing it and just the people he played with, it's surreal.
When he passed away, the amount of love that you saw from musicians online, it's like some of the biggest names in the world were sharing their stories and their kind words.
There's a really cool band, the Weber Brothers. They actually made a crazy trek from the United States up to visit Ronnie and stayed with him years ago. And Ryan Weber made this amazingly. It's a very long, heartfelt post, and it's
reading it on the drive.
It's worth checking out. The Weber Brothers were probably the closest band to Ronnie in recent years, and they put a lot of time in with Ronnie, and he helped them out so much. So their post was so touching. If you have a chance to read it, it really goes into talking about the character of what Ronnie meant to them, a young band kind of coming up. This
kind of tale of just like driving a snowstorm to meet up with Ronnie and just Ronnie taking him under his wing and letting him stay in the barn. Like imagine that, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, and being like, you're going to be playing for me. And then having like playing for Ronnie.
They did. They backed him up for all his gigs, Massey Hall, all that stuff. It was the Weber Brothers, these young kids coming up from the States. So that was kind of the guy Ronnie was. It seems he was just bringing up. He spotted talent, and he would recognize that and bring them into his circle
and embrace them, and just build your confidence and just like, he was a great guy, a magic man. And even hear like kind of stuff that like Dylan is saying in his documentary about and there's a. The way he talks about Ronnie, you know what I'm saying? It's like insane. Like, and I just feel like sometimes in some cases, Ronnie's like this, like as crazy as all these things, how he brought rock and roll, to our generation and younger. It's like, he's like a hidden gem. And like, until you kind of know really what he's brought and why you are hearing these things on the radio to this day is, a lot of it came from Ronnie. I'd like to think,
especially
in
Canada, he single-handedly brought rock and roll to Canada, like played first rock and roll gig, Hamilton, Ontario, like coming up here. It's
So we'll talk about Ronnie for days, man.
Yeah, I know. We could talk about
that's awesome. Those are great memories. I guess just before we talked about Ronnie, we were talking about how you get that vintage sound. You talked a little bit about Water Under the Bridge and some of the sounds that you had in the recording. So that song and that music video came out in 2019. So Water Under the Bridge, that's my favorite Dreamboat song. So cool. Let me give you some insight into the first time I saw that video. So, we're all friends on social media. And I remember you guys posting, hey, we have a new music video, Water Under the Bridge. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was blown away. And I thought they've done it. Like they've written a great song that's worthy of the band. They've made a great quality recording that's worthy of the band. They've made a music video that captures the image of the band. Like, to me, when I saw that, I was like, they've done it. Like, this is, in a nutshell, if I had to on a silver platter present the Dreamboats, where it's undeniable song, undeniable recording, undeniable music, undeniable image in the music video. This is it. And I remember, like, that video has like 30 or 40,000 plays, probably like 700 of them are for me in the first week that you released that video. I sent it to my parents. Like, I sent it to all the people that I knew you guys. And, I guess I just wanted to say, like, how proud I was when I saw that video, that you guys had knocked it out of the park. So I have a few questions about the video we can get into.
Sure. Show it to Brian Fligg on that one as well. And we were trying to just do our best to get the image of an original band going. We were working with a publicist at the time and stuff too. And it's I'm glad that at least got the point across to you at the door. And it was definitely our ode to Palm Springs. I will say that.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed reactions, not mixed reactions in the sense that it really mattered, but a lot of people were coming out with this single. It had been a few years, and then it was this like kind of slower song, and everyone was just like, oh. Some people were like, oh, it's rock and roll. And I remember just hearing it for the first time. I'm like, yo, I want to release this song. Like, this is great. Let's just get it out, So it's cool that you said that. And we got a lot of good compliments. But you had some questions about the video?
Yeah. So apparently there was like a lot of help that showed up, people that helped in the making of that video. So it's great. Like the quality of the video is amazing, like some slow motion stuff, a nice pool and vintage cars and bikes. And apparently it's like Palm Springs itself showed up big time for you guys. So can you give some shout outs of how this all came together?
Totally. And Chris is going to interject, but I'm just going to start with it.
He already knows that Chris.
No, I know you're throwing your little tidbits, but like, this is classic Dreamboats fashion. Okay. We're just like, we got to release a video for this. We're like, what do we do? So we called up Eric Soto, our videographer, and we flew him in. And we didn't even have like a game plan.
No, we had a rough game.
Not at first, though. Not at first. I remember sitting with him in the backyard. He was like, what are we doing?
We'll put it this way. When it comes to like a game plan, you know what I mean? Like, you have ideas, but the question is, when you get down here with very limited budget, which one of those ideas are going to be able to put into play? I think, but there was
rough ideas of creating this kind of vibe, but like no storyboard or anything. What it turned out into being was just, we reached out to everyone we kind of knew. We're like, okay, well, we're gonna get shots. We need shots with a car. So we're like, who do we know who has a car? We need shots of the cul-de-sac, this court out in Palm Springs. It's this iconic court. We knew someone who lived there, so we're like, oh, let's call them up. And Chris Mobley, who's the head of Modernism Week, he lives on there. So we're like, hey, can we get use of the court? And he was just like, sure. And they cleared out the whole court for a whole afternoon for us. And like,
we did both the year anniversary parties for Arrive Hotel, a pretty hip hotel that just opened around at the time. And they just said, use our facility.
We're like, hey, we need your event space. They're like, yeah, just use it. So they gave us the space. And then the person with the vintage cars, it was supposed to just be shots of us with the vintage car. And then he was like, do you want shots driving the vintage car? We're like, all right. So we got these shots at the vintage car. And then because we didn't have a team with us, I remember there was a moment there where Chris Mobley, the head of Modernism Week, was literally driving our rental van. And we had Eric Soto, our videographer, dangling out the back of the rental van down the main drag of Palm Springs, holding his camera, just following us in this car, everyone looking at us. And Mike Heatherman, one of the main sponsors that brings us down here, he was like driving the vehicle.
No videographers were harmed in the making of this music.
I don't know, Eric's pride maybe, but no, I'm just kidding. So it was all grassroots. And as Eric would say, when the backdrop is California, you don't need to worry about lighting as much. It's just beautiful every day. There's not a cloud in the sky. So it's just really easy to capture good scenes if you have the right equipment, and which he did. So Eric did a great job. Shout out to Eric Soto on that video too.
And it was just one of those things where like Palm Springs, as soon as we got here, like it was, where we're from. I mean, we're Mississauga boys, thorough suburbanite kids, and then we got over here and we just knocked like a Modernism Week party out of the park. That was apparently somewhat of a cool thing over here. For the season, big celebration, modern architecture. Our reputation just grew like in a second. Like I feel like we got more momentum in 2 weeks here in Palm Springs than we had. And this isn't a jab at Mississauga. It just is what it is. Like 7 years playing bars in Mississauga. You know what I mean? Like it was just like
Toronto in general.
It was just like we were just so quickly embraced in this area, and given some really cool opportunities, and walking around town with Dreamboats jackets and people like picking you off the side, being like, "You're in the Dreamboats," or like, "Awesome, yeah!" Like it's like such a small, cliquey town here in the desert. But like I said, we were just embraced. The people are so sweet to us over here, and they're so supportive and amazing. And like it's great. And then this video was just simply just being like, "Thank you for everything, and this is what we love about your area." And if we can kind of put in a couple different scenes that make you be like, "Oh, I know that," or "I know this person," or "I know this area," and just that's what we want to kind of capture with the whole thing.
But there was a whole edit of the video that did hit get dropped on the cutting room floor. There's a lot of scenes there where we're just like, we're not gonna release these. Like we were like eating ice cream and we're on these bikes and stuff, and we're just like,
Johnny in nothing but a bow tie is just all that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of locations.
You need to make a Dreamboats OnlyFans and put that picture behind a paywall. That might be the biggest pay jump you guys ever get.
No, Johnny needs to start that one up right there.
Hey, I will transfer $13 if you make that happen.
All right.
You can get more ice cream with it and take more pictures.
That's too much.
We'll upscale, yeah.
Solid 5 CAD will do just fine.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we're at the final 2 releases in the Dreamboats discography. So we have a 5-song EP in 2021, Back to the Start, which has another awesome album cover. So it has the songs Lights Down Low, Back to the Start, What I Love About You, I'm Talking About You, and Leave Me Alone. Leave Me Alone is my favorite song from that EP. It's a little darker, which what's the poke for?
Oh, because like I just think it was like a Dreamboat-esque. It was like for me at the time when I was singing it.
The lyrics are a little darker.
Lyrics are dark, yeah. And there's a part of me would be like, at the time, I didn't know if I could relate to him as much, and I was actually suggesting like, "Johnny, man, sing this song, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sing it." But at the time, too, he just thought I should sing it and whatnot. And as much as I thought that it wasn't the strongest song that I did, it seems to be the favorite song from everybody. You know what I mean? Like, so
not
no, like every person I ask, "What's your favorite song?" Like 80% of them are saying it's "Leave Me Alone."
No,
80%.
There you go. People can just relate to the darkness in the lyrics.
Exactly.
Misery loves company, but Johnny made up for it with the next release. So Hello Josephine in 2022. So this year, and this is your recorded vocal debut. So I guess. Well, one question for the Back to the Start EP in 2021, then we'll get to Hello Josephine. So actually both of those are recorded during the pandemic. So I guess I wanted to know what the challenges were of writing, recording, and releasing an album or some songs during a pandemic.
Oh man, it's striking another chord.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chris looks like exhausted just thinking about
it. Can we even kick it off? Okay, sorry.
Kick off.
I was just going to kick it off even just with the whole pandemic thing. I'm just being very vulnerable right now. When the pandemic hit, obviously we had a bit of a lineup change we went through. We won't get into that too much, but there was a moment there where it was just Richie and I in the band. That was it. And we were sitting in our rehearsal space, and I really struggled there a lot. Like if I even wanted to still be playing in this band, be making music and things like that. And Richie here really pulled me out and continues to pull me out of these places, when I'm down. He's always been there. And during that time, so we're sitting in our rehearsal space, pandemic, it's a lockdown. We're sneaking out, going to our place. He's the only guy I'm kind of seeing outside of my bubble. And we're just sitting there. I'm all like depressed, and we had a few songs we'd written, and all of a sudden, Nick, our guitar player, joined the band, and we were just like, we should just record an EP. Let's just do it on our own and not overthink it. And just, we're in lockdown. Let's just record it here. I have gear. You guys have gear. Let's just do it on our own. And I'd been recording some of our demos. It was coming out okay. So we're like, yeah. And that was a bit of a glimmer of hope. It's something to look forward to. We're like, we're not going to overthink these songs. We're just going to make decisions on the fly and we're going to get it done. So we set up, we rented all this gear and we mic'd everything up in our rehearsal space. And we just started recording it on our own. I mean, Nick had done some recording. I'd done recording with a little 2-channel like interface, but for the most part, we rented a little 8-channel thing and recorded the whole thing on our own. And then the idea was initially to send it off to someone to mix it. So we were just going to capture the audio and send it to a professional person to mix it. We tried with a few people. So either people weren't getting back or weren't responding to us or didn't want to do it. And one person we tried using, we got a mix back and it wasn't sounding good. So we're just like, I'm going to mix it. So I mixed the whole album, and we, Joel, we went to the same school. I don't really know what I'm doing. So it was a big painstaking process of like doing a mix, bouncing it out, listening in my car, listening here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is too, whatever, carve this out, EQ, whatever. And I think, for the most part, within my abilities, I think it came out pretty well. I'm very proud of it. It was my first time mixing anything for a professional release, and I think it was cool. It went with the whole do-it-yourself vibe of the album. I don't know, Chris. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it was definitely one of those kind of things where like, you know what, we got to do something.
Yeah,
we can't be sitting here twiddling our thumbs here. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not gonna lie, the Canadian government made it pretty easy on us. You know what I'm saying?
Which we got a grant.
Which you can fall into like, well, even just like just getting served. You know what I mean? Like, we live in such a beautiful country. I'm sorry. It's just like, man, like under the circumstances, I finally actually had some money in my pocket. It was kind of great. I'm just joking. But at the end of the day, we had to kind of be like, we're here. We don't have any live performances going. How are we going to keep some content going? I don't want people to think that this band is fizzling out. We just made an announcement saying that there's a lineup change, and we're still figuring out new members, holding auditions. We got songs that we are going to be recording with the other lineup before that we might, that we're going to be recording now, and, figuring out what we should be doing. And then just, I think that whole moment, why even it was named Back to the Start, was just try to find like a reason for yourselves and inspiration. We literally just got off receiving 2 Mississauga awards prior to even doing the announcement of the band, switch up or whatnot. We just won Best Live Act of the Year and Artists of the Year. You know what I mean? And then like, we don't even have like a full band
behind the scenes. Like, we didn't even announce that. It was just the 2 of us.
It was just, we're showing up to the thing. It was just showing up to the Get Your Award and just smiles and just like, but like, it's like, holy shit, what's going on? You know what I mean? And so I can imagine anyone being in a situation of feeling like, A, you don't got a band, B, you're in the middle of a pandemic where your whole career is based on bringing people together, and the whole world will scream at you and like disown you if you ever even thought about it at that point. So it's like, a lot of crazy things going on. So to answer your question, it was a lot of emotion going in during that time, and we just wanted to do our best to be like, you know what, let's just put the blinders on here for a bit, and let's just like do something that's fun and gives us purpose and gives us inspiration and direction, and we'll record it, and we'll kind of figure out, we're at the time too figuring out, okay, well, should we be the cover thing? Has being like an original and cover thing been something, this is our moment now if we're gonna jump?
Yeah, we almost were thinking of releasing it under a different band name.
So there's a lot of like, so much,
a lot behind
imagine
the
that
scenes.
Imagine like having this baby that is the Dreamboats, that like you put all your eggs in that basket for that moment, and it just being like, one moment your city is embracing you as like the best live act or the what artist of the year or something, and you can't even freaking get a gig if your life depended on it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's so much that was going on, and then Johnny was, thankfully at the time he was doing some cool demos, and I was like, I love the sound of these demos. And then and he just underplays himself so much, this guy. You know what I mean? He's just like, oh, those are like
so humble.
He's so ridiculous.
A good Canadian boy,
like, strangling himself, be like, you're awesome. Believe it. And then we recorded it. And then it just started sounding good. And he's doing these balancing mixes. We're trying to look for people to chase down for mixes. I'm like, these guys aren't going to know it the way you know it anyway. The way you feel like this, you are this band. You know what I'm saying, Johnny? Like, you know what this is about. You know what I mean? Like, so do it if you want. You know, we got a little bit of fundage. If you want to spend fundage, cool.
It was a labor of love.
You know, it was a labor of love. You know, he definitely let us know once in a while when it was just
like, guys, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like in my room. I'm mixing on like my speakers. I'm in GarageBand. I mixed that whole thing in GarageBand.
That whole thing was done in GarageBand.
Everything, and I really like how it came out.
I love the way it came out.
Considering I don't have any.
I love the way it came out. So like,
I feel your pain having recorded plenty of stuff on crappy equipment before taking audio engineering. So I know what that feels like, the mixing it down and it sounds good here, but not here, and not on headphones, and not in the car, and not in earbuds, and one little tweak and bouncing it down again. And
it's definitely, like I said, a mixture of seeing frustration in that end. Like I said, some of the darkest moments, like, yo, Johnny and I were shedding tears in that, like, no joke, man. Like,
it was
shedding
very
tears
emotional.
in that freaking like rehearsal space, man. Like, I'm just being like, what the F is going on? What's happening? And what are we doing? Like, is this even worth continuing? Like, we're you know,
couldn't even do auditions with people. It was taboo. It was during a lockdown. We're like, well, we got a virtual gig coming up. Who are we gonna play it with? You know, it was such a stressful, dark time in the history of the Dreamboats. But you know,
and you do your best to just kind of push through it, and like, you know what I mean. And we struggle with things every day. You know what I'm saying? And like, and it's important, like I said, to just make sure you get the right team behind you. You know, and if you're not feeling things, you know what I mean, you got to do your best to address it, and just like, and talk. Like, man, like I said, this has been a relationship between Johnny and I since like 2009. Like, this is like, you know what I mean, and Joel, you know, like managing band relationships, man. Like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, how easy is that, right?
We've all grown too.
You know?
We're like different people than we were in 2009. You know, and it's like, it's in many ways, it's like a marriage. You know, where and
you evolve with the relationship the best you can, in different personalities and different needs and different wants, and the evolution of your financial, your love life, and all these things, and how it's got to coincide with like 4 or 3 different individuals is
I brought up when I was talking to Glenn of Blue Rodeo, I brought up that, you know, being in a band is like a marriage, except that, you know, it's hard enough to be married to one person where you're both infinitely complex and things are changing and
that's
whatever. And then I said, then I say, you know, but with a band, there's 4 of you or 7 of you, like, it's even harder. And then he had a funny comeback. He goes, well, in a band, members are allowed to leave, you know? So he kind of said, like, it's like a marriage, except that people can come and go, you know, in a band and not in a marriage. But anyways, it's you know, I only have to look after myself and I have a hard time. You know, each of us are so complex and we don't know what we want, and things change and circumstances. So I get it, man, being in a band, how hard that is to navigate those waters with multiple people. You know?
And you got to be on top of like to help the morale of the team. You know what I mean? Like, I've never, you know, I don't think anyone who looks themselves, everyone's got their own leadership roles within this band, but like, to really keep the morale of the team going on, it's got to be constant, where you get like you get little good things that help break and help. You know, we got the casino residence, awesome. You know, we got a little bit of money, you know, or we're playing here, or we met this person, or like, you know, even meeting or even seeing Glenn, or like even when Ronnie did the freaking party there for celebrating his party and selling his land being divided. You know, he invited everyone over to his northern estate, and I just went to go see, you know, Blue Rodeo like 2 weeks ago, you know what I mean, at Massey Hall. And then next thing you know, we're playing at Ronnie's place, and, you know, Jim's there, and, you know, and seeing Colin on lead and,
Rips,
you know, and then, you know, and drumming, and we're like, oh, this is like, we're here right now. We're seeing our freaking heroes right now, like playing in front of us, and we're playing after them. You know what I mean? Like, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, it's like little wins that help keep the morale of this band going here and there. And that's all you can hope for. And like, I can definitely use, you know, Glenn and crew as a moment for us. I'm being like, okay.
So this is actually cool. to help with morale, I have a little pick me up for you guys. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
We're always hoping for a good pick.
This might be the most important quote you guys ever got. Okay, so this is from Johnny's parents.
Okay.
So here, this is the love of a parent here. Okay, so these are from the parents. This is what they say. I have watched them grow and evolve over the years, and these are my impressions. Number one, they are very talented and skilled musicians who have evolved into entertainers. When they are on stage, their charisma, dance steps, funny anecdotes, and high energy moves light up the venue. Number two, their music from the 50s and 60s make people happy. Look around any venue where they are playing, and you will see smiling, singing, clapping, dancing, and cheering. Number three, they are passionate about what they do. You can see this in every aspect of their performance. Number four, they are creative and skilled songwriters. Not only do they beautifully perform covers of classic rock and roll songs, they write and perform their own songs that fit into this era. And sometimes they take a classic and put a modern spin on it. Number five, they are risk takers. Their move to California is a huge step in their career. Number six, we're just getting warmed up, guys. Number six, they have the love and support of family, friends, and fans. Number seven, their journey over the past few years could easily be made into a Netflix series. So many artists would identify with the ups and downs of their story. They themselves have captured their journey to California through the Keeping It Dreamy series. Number eight, the stories of their experiences and adventures are quite entertaining. For example, playing in the Cavern in Liverpool, driving through the narrow streets of Europe in their huge rented van. Sounds dangerous. Being the last band to play in Ronnie Hawkins' barn before Ronnie sold his property. And the final number 9, their fan base takes in a wide spectrum from an older generation reliving their youth to a younger generation discovering rock and roll for the first time. So that is from Marcia. That's from your mom. And then your dad, not to be outdone, says, ditto to everything Marcia said. I would simply add that they are genuine, all-around nice guys. They are good people, well-grounded, and wonderful role models. So I think your parents, you should hire them as the PR team for the Dreamboats, because that was pretty amazing.
Awesome. His dad's definitely the photographer of the band.
You should hire them. You got the visual and the PR there. The photographer.
That sounds like my mom wrote that. Thanks, mom and dad. Love you guys. Thank you so much for the support.
There you go. Little pick me up, some kind words. It's nice to have.
I always want to sometimes I just want to say thank you to Johnny's parents for because I feel like there's been many moments in my life, my career that I've been able to kind of get through with grace and ease because of how awesome this person is. He's burning, Steve's flying out of his ears.
We each help each other. There's times when I'm there for Chris, and there's times when he's there for me. And
him for me though. I'm a mess.
No. In recent times it's been him. So appreciate Richie. Thanks, man.
Just in case, like, those are very kind words. In case there's slight embarrassment because it's your parents, I have something from my mom here, just so we both got something.
Okay.
So my mom, Ann Martin, who joined me at the Blue Rodeo concert last night, she says, get them to talk about that cool older gentleman who wore very lengthy shoes, like clown shoes. He was always dancing up a storm, following the band around to most of their shows in the Mississauga area. So can we get a shout out for the dancing guy?
I'm going to say,
like, very old.
I know exactly.
Oh yeah. Don, I remember one show specifically at the Abbey Roads pub. He was there dancing up a storm.
So I will say this. First off, rest in peace to Don.
Don passed away.
He was one of the sweetest dudes to us. And you know what, man? He used every opportunity he could to get his dance on with some of the.
He stole the show every time.
Ladies and everyone bought into him. Like he was just he was such a cool dude, man.
I don't even know his story too much. I don't know. I know he lived in Mississauga.
All I know is, man, this guy would roll up. He'd be like, "I'm gonna see you in Burlington next week," or something. I'd be like, "What? Okay, cool, awesome. We're playing in Burlington," and he'd be like. He traveled to shows, okay, public transportation to shows that I wouldn't even travel with my own show. I
But
can't.
not
Yeah.
even public transportation. He would ride his bike to shows. Like we'd be downtown. He lived in Mississauga. He would ride his bike. I think
That's how he had the cardio to dance all night.
I think
That
my
guy
parents
was
drove
rocking
him
out.
home one time.
Yeah.
I think I was with him. Yeah, they like took him home.
But
They're
he
like,
was-
"You're not riding home." He was in his like 80s.
He followed us a lot like, to the places that we played, and he was just always not like not like overbearing or anything. He was just like so perfectly in the pocket of just being awesome with us, like complimenting and just being so like grateful for like just what we brought to the table and just embracing, and just he was such a sweetheart. And like, yeah, R.I.P. Don. You were
Rest in
you're-
peace,
you're-
yeah.
you're-
Well dressed, good dancer, a gentleman. And I mentioned I kept bringing my first dates there, and I'd have to keep an eye on him because they
gotta watch out that
all
guy.
seem to
Yeah,
gravitate. you
Yeah,
know?
he'll
He
see
had
you.
that charm,
You'll go to the bar and you'll come back. He'll already be like
Mr. Steal Your Girl. Yeah,
Screaming
he's
around in the middle of the dance floor, man.
Exactly.
You gotta watch that guy.
Exactly.
yeah. So as we wrap up, there's a couple more things. So I wanted you guys to share information about your GoFundMe campaign because I think it's important. So you guys, you moved to California, you have this vision of what's possible for the band. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage. It's not easy. Speaking to 60 or so super talented musicians on this podcast during the pandemic, it's become very apparent that everybody basically lost their main source of income, right? The live shows disappeared. All these musicians, we don't even know if, now things are a little different, but for a long period of time, we didn't know if live shows would ever come back. We didn't know if our skills as a musician were even needed. Like, are we useless? Are we dinosaurs now? And, a lot of people I know, musicians, became real estate agents, became whatever during the pandemic. So I think it's important that we share the GoFundMe campaign because it's, you guys are good guys. You work hard. The product is there. You guys are talented. You write good music. The live show's great. And unfortunately, a lot of times dreams just come down to funding. It's everything else is in place, but it's hard to make a living as a creative, not just music, but painting and acting and dancing and whatever.
Yeah.
So I've done crowdsourcing before, crowdfunding. There's no shame in that. It's these people that are chipping in. They want to support the band. You've given them great music and great memories, and it's all one community that's supporting itself. So it's not begging. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's, we all need to step up and support each other and help each other, because if the creatives can't keep creating, we live in a very sad, stale world. They say if the music stops, what kind of world do we live in? So that's my setup for you guys to talk about the GoFundMe campaign. And it looks like it's actually doing quite well already.
We've never been we've never really been good
We,
at
as
asking.
in Richie and I.
Yeah, I've never been really good at asking people for things like that. You know what I mean? Like, we even felt like, even when it came down to releasing our own music, I know we've been eligible for like some factor and stuff like that. There's points of us where we thought, should we try dipping into, we're fortunate enough pre-pandemic that we were able to kind of, invest a little bit into ourselves, like invest into the band from the work that we've done and stuff like that. But it's not the case a lot of the times, like now, especially now where we're moving to this new spot where we're literally hitting the reset button. I feel like everyone that has seen us grow back home, we're coming here and we're trying to do the same thing, in over a very shorter period of time. But thankfully for that first leg of the GoFundMe, we are pushing it. I was doing my best to, like, every person, if you donated 20 down to freaking $5,000, whatever, I just be sending you videos of just what we've been working on. And
he was video messaging everyone.
I wasn't, I'd probably have this huge YouTube channel right now if I posted all the videos that I made.
All private links.
All private links just sent to just let people know how personally thankful we were, and showing that love to anyone that was doing it. And I enjoyed doing it. And if people, want to have a better glimpse of what we do and ask questions and want to know things as personally behind the scenes, you know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. I'm glad you're interested in doing it. And thankfully those people were also willing to support us at the same time, you know?
And that's the thing too, is like you said, Joel, we had to kind of come to terms with that because Richie and I hate asking for help, especially as the band has been so self-sufficient over the years. But we got down here and it was like, you know how it is. You don't just book gigs for that weekend. It's like gigs are booked months in advance. You know, oftentimes you do get last minute gigs, but anything corporate, we're talking they're booked in the fall. You know, we're trying to book it in January. It's booked later. So we were sitting there and we are just kind of hemorrhaging money as was expected. But, you know, we did think we'd be able to pick up a few more gigs immediately. But it was a bit of a last resort. We were just like, we need, you know, there's so many people who've asked us over the years, how can I support? How can I help? And we were like, okay.
Follow us on Instagram. That's good enough.
Yeah, that's what we used to say. Like us, tell your friends, bring them to a show. That's how you can support. But now it was like, okay, well, we're going to just throw this out there. And if people want to support, they will. And there's some people who've supported to the same GoFundMe campaign multiple times. We've also had people pay us outside of the GoFundMe down here. And, you know, there's a lot of big supporters. And it still makes me awkward, but it makes me feel so much love for this band. And I feel like we owe so much to these people because they were so easily willing to just give us money to support these dreams, and they're living through us, and we owe that to them.
And I feel like we had a nice little, like, you know, we're promoting it, and then we got a nice little chunk. You know what I mean? You know, halfway, you can see that we're halfway pretty much through our GoFundMe. And I feel like now, you know what I mean, going into this next leg where, like, you know, we have our visas that's going into February 2023, that, you know, right now we got to get like a place that we're locking down to with a lease. Prior to this, we had to go Airbnb. You know what I mean? Because we have no track record here. No one's going to give us a lease for like 6 months to a year. So we're just spending these astronomical amounts of money on just housing. You know what I mean? So, and thankfully we have a nice little place that we're staying at here right now that we got a little break in from a friend. We're getting help wherever we can. You know what I'm saying?
We're now also the currency change, right, is between the US and Canada. You're paying, I guess, 30% more.
The logistics
is nuts. The gas is nuts. The
logistics are nuts. It's like we don't even have an account down here. It's like we get paid in US. I got to send it home. My brother's got to cash it. It's like it's a logistical nightmare every step of the way.
But on the plus side, you know what I mean? As we're crying here in the sun of like California, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you bastards with your glorious tans. I only have a tan because I have like an effect on me or something. I have a graveyard tan if I take off the whatever's going on here. Yeah.
If we wanted to focus solely on, like, you know, making money, it's not about money for us. It's never been about money for us. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
but you do need enough to live.
And that's the thing, right? And like and you, like I said, we're fortunate if we want to focus on that. Yeah, we can have a very, you know, negative, you know, interview here, but at the same time, we're very thankful that people have armed us with the ability to be supportive, live our dreams humbly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm staying in a hallway right now. It's not amazing. Johnny's got his bed here. You know what I mean?
It's like, better than the time I was in a closet. So
I contemplated sleeping in this closet.
Walking.
You guys are laughing because you're this close to sleeping in it. Yeah.
Well, last time we were here, I slept on the cot, and this time Chris is on the cot, but he's giving me the privacy of the room, so he's out. But because also this room this bathroom here doesn't have a door on it, so we were sharing this room, and it was like sexy time. Anytime you wanted to take a shower.
So let's try to give each other some privacy here.
This is all the OnlyFans content we're talking about.
I know. Hey, man,
you might stop doing music altogether if we get this OnlyFans up and running.
You open up a can of worms right here, Joel. But to answer your question, yes, we have a GoFundMe going on right now. We were going to be sending out a little push. Johnny and I were going to get into it. We're not big fans of asking, but if you like what we do, if you like that, you know, I mean, the time that we've put into our craft, and hoping to hear kind of stuff that we were trying to get going on creatively, you know, we've been really working hard. We're really working hard on dynamics of this band stage show, and that cuts into time for us to go and try to get bookers and line up all those ducks. So it all helps, and we appreciate anyone that from past, present, and to the future that would support us. It would mean the absolute world to us. And if you want to follow our story and just see what it's like for just individuals like us coming from Mississauga, you know where we're from, you know what we've done. We've Rockin' Docs, Finn McCool's, The Harp, you know what I mean? All these places we started, the open mics, and we're here. And if you've been with us through this journey, it's been highs and lows, and to see this thing come through the way we want it to do, and hopefully to get that fire that, to encourage us and support us, it would mean the world to us. And hopefully you get to see us at the next phase of our life and the next phase of our careers. And it all starts with you guys, the fans and supporters. We're just the guys just sitting in front of you guys with the catalyst and the support that makes this whole dream possible.
So if our listeners want to find that GoFundMe campaign, is it just on your website? Where do they find it?
It should be on the main page, thedreamboatsband.com. We have a little section there. And also if you donate, we do put all the donors' names on a section on our website as well. So yeah, it's, we really felt the love on that. We felt awkward getting all this money, but we definitely felt the love, and people were just reassuring us, no, like, this is good. This is fine. Like, take the money.
Yeah. What I've learned is you have to be willing to ask for a favor for someone to be able to do you a favor. Like if there's no one ever asking for favors, nobody can do a favor. Like you need, again, the yin and the yang. Yeah. And people love helping other people. And if nobody needs help, if nobody is asking for favors, the people that love doing things for others can't do that. They can't share the love, and they can't help out. And so I think that's important. Also, there are quite a few people that have a lot of money, and they want to help out. And some people have more money than they have time, and that's the way that they can help out. So there's I think it's important. So, the podcast fans, the Dreamboat fans will head over there. They'll help out. We'll get you to your goal, and we'll get you to the next stage of your career for sure. So I like to end the interviews with some rapid fire questions. So these have to be short answers. Get to the point. We'll blast through them because the fans want to know the answers. So are you guys good with some rapid fires?
Are we going to answer together, or like back and forth, or what do you think?
Whatever works, whatever you think. So rapid fire question number 1, what is the best live concert you've ever seen?
Green Day, Maple Leaf Gardens when I was in grade 6.
I'm going to say Roger Waters in recent years at the ACC or whatever it's called, Scotiabank. Blew my mind. Amazing show.
I was there. Was that the one where he did The Wall in its entirety, or after?
No, not The Wall, the one before that. But they played so well that I didn't even think they were playing live. And then when I found out they were, it was, anyways.
Amazing. So I was at The Wall in Toronto, and he's got a show coming up in Montreal and I believe Toronto. So if you want to see Roger Waters,
I'm going to that. I'll be in town.
You sly fox. That'll be good. Yeah. All right. If you could only pick one favorite album of all time, is there any that stands the test of time? Maybe a Desert Island album. If you only had one, you could keep listening to.
I gotta go with Weezer, Pinkerton.
Nice. That's like, most people would do the Blue Album, or Pinkerton is like one of the hidden gems. You want to hear
Vulnerability in its finest? Pinkerton.
Good point.
It. Yeah.
And I'm Sgt. Pepper, the Beatles.
You have to. I hear you. If you could sit down for a conversation with anybody, who would it be?
2, 3.
Paul McCartney.
Amazing. Did you guys see that he just headlined Glastonbury over the weekend? He played 2.5 hours. He played 23 Beatles songs within the set. He brought up Dave Grohl for the first live performance since Taylor Hawkins died. The videos are online. You can see them. He brought up Bruce Springsteen, and he's officially the oldest person to ever headline Glastonbury, because normally you have Billie Eilish at 21 and whoever. So he made history over the weekend. So it
does not surprise me that he's making history.
Living legend. Living legend.
I thought you'd be into that. Real quick, are you guys into books and or video games? And if so, any favorite video games of all time or any favorite books of all time?
Favorite video game, hands down, Galaga.
Favorite video game, GoldenEye. N64, man.
Nice. The best.
Nice. You know the deal. Yeah.
Nice. The last time I was at your place, I think you still had a 64.
Yeah, right, I did.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get it twisted. The 4-player death matches are still happening.
Let's do it.
Do you guys still have any musical dreams that you have not attained? Is there anything like bucket list that would mean the world to you if you're able to make it happen?
Air Canada Center.
Scotiabank
Arena. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Scotiabank playing there is something I've always dreamt of as well. But also in recent years, working with Paul McCartney in some kind of capacity, we have a bit of a connection there. But when the time is right, if we can either open for him or do some kind of collab. I know that sounds like a huge dream, and time is of the essence, but that is on the radar and would be an absolute dream come true. That is possible.
I will say one thing quickly on like even like that's like mega, but then even one that's like kind of like a realistic short-term one quickly was having the ability to play the Living Arts Center, Hammerson Hall, and we got to do that.
That was a childhood dream.
That was a childhood dream come true for us as well. A very emotional one. Check that one out online. We documented the whole thing for an hour and that thing. Yeah,
I saw that you released the whole concert, didn't you?
We're just releasing all the raw footage.
Just the raw footage. Yeah.
Eric, we just release it.
Yeah,
amazing. You guys will like this. A few episodes ago, I had Jeff Pierce, the bass player from Moist. And he gave me the best compliment ever. And I think you guys would appreciate it more than anyone. At some point, because we're talking bass, someone sent in a comment saying his bass playing is very melodic, like Paul McCartney. Like it's like the bass playing plays around the melodies of this and that, and he's seen it. Jeff Pierce sees himself as more of a songwriter than a bass player. It's like he happens to play bass, So we were talking a lot about Paul McCartney, and at the end of the interview, he goes, I give you 3 years. He goes, with the trajectory you're on, with the guests you're getting on the podcast, I give it 3 years. Within 3 years, you have Paul McCartney on as a guest on your podcast. I'm not the biggest Beatles fan in the world, but that was like the biggest compliment I've ever had, and I thought you guys would appreciate that.
It doesn't surprise you, man. You've been killing it lately, Joel, man.
Yeah,
congratulations on everything, man.
Yeah, man.
It's great to see.
Thank you. If we get Paul McCartney on, I'll sneak you guys in. An extra Zoom window pops up with you guys, and you'll be the special guest to come in with some questions or comments or something. So I have 2 final questions. So we're done the rapid fire. Okay. These can be a bit longer. These are a little more difficult. These are a little deeper. When you guys look back on your life and career, what are you most proud of and most grateful for?
Oh, I'm most grateful for the fact that for a very long time, I've gotten to wake up and play music, teach music, be an influence on young musicians, meet so many, people like-minded, relationships, things like that. Because of music. I'm just grateful for all of that, all those things, the ability to wake up now to this moment, and as stressed out as we can be about where we're living, finances, relationships, leaving people, back home, missing home, I'm waking up here and I have one purpose, and that's just to be the best version of myself as like a performer, a musician, and it just naturally just brings a smile to my face, and I'm thankful to everyone and and the man upstairs for giving me this ability to do so. Yeah, Nick DeVito, our
yeah.
The man upstairs, the man downstairs.
I'd say that's my answer to that one.
Nice. Like Richie here said, just being fortunate, to be able to play music, and being playing music that I really like I said, growing up on this music, I've always said that this has been like the band I was born to play in. I've always been infatuated with this era. And obviously there's ups and downs, times where I've been like, do I want to do, but at the end of the day, it's just so great to be playing in this band. And even in before the pandemic, when things were fully open, there was this kind of I was fortunate to be able to kind of take the band where we wanted it to go. We were always like, we want to play the Cavern Club in Liverpool. And it was like, okay, let's do it, and then it's like, okay, who do we know there? How do we do it? Let's call people and blah, blah. And we made it happen. Let's
tour Europe.
Tour Europe. And it's like, well, no one's going to do it. We can do it. And you feel that gratification of the fruits of your labor. You get to experience that. And that's a very, very rewarding feeling. Does it come at the expense of certain other liberties of a lot of money at this point? We're still in the trenches right now. We're still grinding it and trying to make it to the next level. So, we're still in the thick of it right now, but yeah, stopping. And Richie does a great job of trying to remind me how fortunate I am because, being down here, it's a big move. And,
it's always easy to look back. You know what I'm saying? It's always very easy and very tempting to look back at the things that are comfortable and sweet and tasty, and it's just like right now it's a move for us, and we're just happy that people are going to be along the journey for us. Exactly.
Everything you've done has gotten you to where you are now. So if you want to get somewhere you've never been, you're going to have to do something you haven't done. Right. Yes. So that's why that's so important. Final question. If you guys could go back in time and you could sit down next to your 10-year-old selves. So you got cute little Chris, cute little GM. If you could whisper advice, what advice would you provide to help your 10-year-old selves along the way? So look, you guys now have a lifetime up until now of highs and lows of experience and mentorship and training and whatever. What can you pass on to your 10-year-old selves?
Take this a lot more serious a lot sooner.
Is that, yeah,
that's me.
Good advice. Yeah.
If I had to whisper like a phrase, I would probably tell myself to not be embarrassed or ashamed of digging into music early on, because at 10 I didn't have a drum kit. I would have told myself to get a drum kit, and I would have told myself to take a few lessons, not a lot, but a few. I think I would have been a lot further along than I am. But I always dreamt big as a kid, so always felt like I was destined, not in a narcissistic way, just felt like I was, meant to do something that can bring people joy. And I think Richie kind of felt the same way. So I wouldn't do anything else other than, kind of take it, you can really do this.
It's just, if I can look back and say 2009, since 2009 is how this whole thing felt, just looking back at it and just thinking, when you're in a band, and there's a reasons why bands fizzle, and there's reasons why bands stay together, and there's reasons why, bands have great careers. And it's just like, the sooner you can kind of get on board with the vision and not worry about anything else other than, worrying about beyond just the glory of being in a band and the stage and the cool things that come with it. Like, you really want to think about longevity, career, and stuff like that. These are things you got to think of in a business setting. You got to think of it as a business and like really start focusing on having the clear vision, and your 3-year, forecast is very important as a band. And you look at it, you see the vision, you knock it off. Then when it's there, then you have another kind of, plan to what to go forward with that in the next phase kind of thing. So taking it serious a lot earlier in your career is something I would have told myself.
But not too serious. You don't want to not serious in the sense that do your best. You know what I mean? Do your best, have some fun, but always just try your best, no matter who you're playing with. You got to rise to the occasion, learn your parts, and just do it. And I think a lot of people coming up, that's even a piece of advice I would say to a lot of musicians growing up, is that you have so many people that play, but very few who can actually nail the parts and put in that attention to detail and really take the time to learn the parts. And to be honest, you'll get so much work just by learning the parts and taking it seriously while having fun, of course, because that's the whole reason we do this, is that it's fun at the end of the day.
If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. That's the quote. Where can our listeners, so new fans that have come along on this 2.5 hour journey, where can they find you online? You mentioned the website. So is that the dreamboatsband.com? And then
Yep.
where else on social media? If they want to slide into the DMs and say, hey, love the interview, or I checked out the music video and loved it, or if they want to get in touch, where do they go?
Active on Instagram. We're trying to pick up the TikTok thing a little bit here.
Instagram at the Dreamboats. And if you're super cool, follow us on TikTok. We do post stuff that we don't post on Instagram on TikTok, but also obviously Facebook we're very engaged with, but our YouTube channel, we have a lot of long form content on there, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, raw content where you can just be a fly on the wall and just kind of follow us around. So, and we're very responsive on there too. So YouTube as well. It'd be great to see you all there.
Perfect. So the last thing is I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge you guys for your lifelong pursuit of mastery as musicians. You've given everything you've got. You've put your head down. You've set big goals. You're working towards them. You're showing everyone what is possible when you dream big and you act through on that. I want to thank you for bringing 50s and 60s music to a new generation. Sometimes you worry that great music is getting lost in the sands of time. So it's awesome that you can bring that great music and that great style of music to younger kids and teenagers. So it stays with us in human history. I want to take a moment to acknowledge you guys for going all in and burning the boats and moving to California to fulfill that dream. There's a lot of great opportunities waiting for you in California, but it takes courage to do that, especially after the last 2 years where resources kind of get decimated. And the last thing I want to acknowledge you for is, I guess I want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down with me here today. You guys know that, I love you guys as friends and as musicians and as bandmates and all those different things. And it means a lot for me to be able to sit down with you guys and pick your brain and ask questions I've always wanted to know the answers to. And I'm sure the fans that have been listening, they like the inside scoop as well.
Great. Joel, thank you for all of that. It really means a lot coming from you. You have such great accolades in music and beyond. So thank you. And like we said earlier, great job on the podcast. Really have been enjoying listening to your episodes and, wishing you all the best from the band. You're part of the Dreamboats family and you have been for a while. So really appreciate your support over the years and taking the time to ask us these questions. It was a blast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us, Joel, man. This meant a lot. We appreciate it, man.
You're very welcome. I've spent up to a month in California before. So now that I have some people on the ground floor there, the home base,
come say what up,
I'll have to come visit.
Come say what up, man.
We got a closet with your name on it.
Yeah, man.
That's more than I deserve. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you to you guys, to the Dreamboats. Thank you to the Dreamboats fans for listening. Thank you to the podcast listeners. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Bye, Joel.
Bye. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'd love to hear from you guys. My goal is to grow this podcast organically, where you're giving me feedback on topics you'd like me to cover and guests you'd like me to interview. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joel Martin Mastery. Joel is Joel, and on Twitter at Joel Mastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.